Good, good evening and a pleasant welcome to the closing argument on KDM TV, where we are live on Hot FM 107.9 and we are also live on Umar FM in Bomi County 106.3. Well, today's edition of the program brings live happening issues in Liberia. And not to waste much of the time, we move over to the team there in the US, Chairman Ben Sanvi, who will take on the show. Chairman, unmute yourself. Chairman Ben Sanvi, can you hear me? Well, we are facing technical problems, so we go for this short break to be back. Well, welcome back to the program, the closing argument. Like we said, a lot of many issues to be discussed today on the show. And so, Chairman Ben Sanvi, once again, welcome to the program.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm getting you now. Thanks for joining us.
Good, good, good. Thank you, thank you. It's good to be here. I think we can. You guys can hear me clearly. We're testing out the. We're doing the new what we said the new technology today, right? So we have to do it. So hopefully if you guys can hear us, also please put it in the comments so that we are able to know exactly if you can hear us loud and clear. Also. Is there Tomlin George in the background? Where is our video and everything? Where are the guys? Is everything going well? Tomlin, how are you? Can you hear me clearly?
Loud and clear, Chairman. Loud and clear.
Okay. So,
How's the day
studio, can you
going?
hear us?
Yes, certainly we are getting you loud and clear, Chairman.
Okay. Okay. Well, Tomlin, we're looking forward to having another fascinating conversation today. We're going to be bringing on Attorney Mariah Yakula will be joining us as a guest panelist today. We're going to be having conversations regarding several things. We will be doing a rundown pretty soon of what we will be discussing. The rest of the panelists will be joining us. Jackie McKay, Kef Hassan, um, Dr. Henry P. Body, and like I said, Attorney Mariah Yakula will be joining us. We are also live on Hot FM, Puma FM, and other radio stations across the country. So we want to thank all of those who are listening, and we want to thank everybody for the support that we received over the last couple of weeks. I mean, well, talking about a week or so that we've been on. Tommy, what's your thoughts, man? How's everything? First of all, we're somebody is now saying there's no sound, so we need to be sure if there are any sound.
Well, it's good to be back again, and with 188 days to the elections, the election is in full swing with the sign of the Farmington Declaration yesterday by the president and all the and members of the opposition community. And we know the election is now in full swing. We have the NEC getting ready to conclude the first phase of the voter registration process, which ends on April 9th. And we also watching all the candidates, the top candidates in the race as they prepare to make their choice for VP. And so we are ready to create the opportunity to close the argument. So we are here today again to present the opportunity for people to come and close the argument. The argument is already on since they started
Yeah.
since the electoral process. So it's time to close the argument as we approached election day, which is 188 days from today.
I know. Thank you for that, Dominic. And definitely, we are going to be looking at a bunch of issues. I think you can see on the screen there. There is a rundown that we're going to be talking about some of these things. The Farmington Declaration, which is something that we all have been paying attention to. And then also, we're going to be talking about the National Elections Commission and the CPP at the Supreme Court. And then we're going to go on the updates of the VP picks, the opposition VP picks, the latest updates. It's almost like a musical chair thing that's going on with the different, the different prospects, those who have interest in the VP picks. So we're also going to be looking at that. And then obviously we'll have our crossfire section where Mary sounding okay. Hopefully, we'll be able to get everybody to participate in the crossfire section, and then we'll do the closing argument from the panelists. So we will go over this rundown again. Again, like we said, guys, please bear with us. We are using a new system today. I would we've tried our best to try to perfect this system, but it's going to get better as we move forward. It's going to get better as we move forward. All right. So, Tomini, what are your thoughts on what happened on, I think it was what, yesterday, that the Farmington Declaration was signed? What are your thoughts? We heard a bunch of speeches, we heard a lot of things going on. What are your thoughts? And, studio, somebody needs to mute in the background. We are hearing a feedback. So, just so you guys are aware. Go ahead, Tomini.
Yes, Chairman. Yesterday was a historic day in our country. The international community and all major stakeholders involved by electoral process met at Farmington and reaffirmed the commitment to supporting Liberia electoral process. The leaders of the opposition community committed that there will be a free and fair election, and the results of the come out of this election will be accepted by all parties, perhaps. And we hope, looking forward to a free, transparent, and inclusive elections. The president, I thought, gave a very, very beautiful speech, and also former Vice President Boyka. His speech, he gave a very welcoming speech too, and it shows
Mhm.
that our democracy has come a long way and is improving. That opposition and the ruling establishment can meet and all find a common ground to sign an accord of such nature. Our international stakeholders, the African Union, the United Nations, the ECOWAS, the United States government, and all our partners are all involved in this process. So we're looking forward as the process proceeds to see that
Mhm.
we'll be heading to a peaceful process. So let's see what happens in the next 188 days. Welcome, Kev. Welcome, Jackie.
Great,
Thank
great, Jackie. Welcome.
thank you.
It's good to see you guys. Again, we're trying out this new technology today, so you'll bear with us. Things are going to be moving. This is all in an effort to get better, to make this platform the best as we promise you. So give us your feedback on what do you think if you're receiving the signals clear on Facebook, on YouTube, on live on the radio. Please give us your feedback as we go through today's like I said, there was no way we could have we couldn't keep waiting to get it to a point where so today we decided that we want to go. But again, like I said, the first thing we're discussing today, and let's remind our folks, Attorney Moriah Yekula will be joining us to discuss a wide range of issues. She will be the guest panelist today on the show. Specifically, I think one of the things that she's going to be discussing. Um, okay, good. I think one of the things that she's going to be discussing will be this case, the National Elections Commission versus the CPP. She is chief of staff to the standard bearer of the CPP, so she will be able to explain to us and give us a full breakdown of what the of what the case, the merits and the demerits of the case is. But let me give Kev the time to say his opening, and then Jackie, you can say your opening, and then we will go over the take. I mean we'll go over the rundown one more time before we kick things off. Go ahead, Kev.
Well, I want to say hi to everybody. Um, Looking at this new technology, and looking at watching it on another screen. I think it look good. Uh, like you said, Ben, we're working on it. But uh, let the show begin. Talk about the current events that happened yesterday and today.
All right, Jackie, you want to come in with your opening statement, just so we hear from you, and then we take it from there.
Yeah, just want to say hello to all our loving Liberians all over the world in Liberia and in the diaspora. Hope everybody is out there registering to vote. Cause Sunday right now is the deadline for the first phase, and looking forward to a wonderful discussion, a fruitful discussion today.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you. And again, like I said, we do have a rundown. We're going to be going over the Farmington Agreement that was signed recently. I think it was yesterday that this was signed by all political actors in the country. From what I understand, the only political party that did not sign was the EFF L. I'm not sure why they have not signed it, but that's the only other political party that we know that have not signed the Farmington Declaration. There were a lot of discussions there, right? We watch. I think we're going to be showing some video clips as we proceed with this discussion. The president spoke. We do know that Vice President Joe Boycott, former Vice President Joseph Boycott, who is the standard bearer of the Unity Party, spoke, and there were, and I would want us to talk about it, right? We would like to talk about what that meant. What were some of the things that they talked about? Some of the things that they discussed, and then we'll be able to go over it. I think the president came from. The president came from, and I'm hearing again. Let me just state: people are saying that we're not live on YouTube on the KMTV channel on YouTube. So, studio, if you're hearing us, please make sure you work on that, because there's a lot of people who are not on Facebook, but that we're not live on YouTube. But they're saying the sound is clear. So again, you guys just bear with us while we work on this. But yeah, like I said, Tominin, the president spoke, and his tone was very conciliatory. His tone was striking, exactly as you can see the video there. His tone was, he spoke from the angle, I guess, as the leader of the country, right? Even though he is the incumbent in these elections, he's going up for re-election. But I thought his speech was very good. To be quite honest with you, I thought he struck some of the points that he needed to strike as the leader of the country. The thing now is us making sure and practicalizing those statements, right? So, what are your thoughts on what the president said?
Well, yeah, he set the tone as the leader of the country, and for the process we're about to ensue, and calling for nonviolent and also a free, fair, transparent, and inclusive national elections. I also I hope, I pray that they take a step further, and the security apparatus of the country, they meet with the political leaders again, the political parties, to come up with some mechanism that we will avoid violence, will deter violence, and any form of chaos during the electoral process. Because you don't want to see where two parties are campaigning at the same time, the same area, and the partisans will get and start to get violent with each other, and it may run turning up to something different. So I pray that
Mhm.
they can find a big another section where they can seek a common ground, so that all parties can feel safe and to campaign wherever they want to campaign, and at any time we don't campaign, so that we have a peaceful elections, so that when these elections are over, Liberia can come back together and be one country. Right now, like you always said, Ben, and the crazy season is on. The crazy season is on,
Mhm.
and I'm telling you, it's real. The season is this crazy season. The next 188 days
Yeah.
will be crazy. No joke about that. But the president, yeah, he,
Yeah.
he set the tune yesterday and gave a good speech, followed by the former vice president. I think we're ready. We see that on course. And NEC need to come up now to also ensure that Everything's are in place for these elections.
Yeah. Thank you, Dominic. And let's get Jackie in on this. Jackie, the president struggle. We're going to speak about what VP Buckeye spoke on also. So, but the president talked about the issue of peace. He talked about incendiary languages. He talked about tamping the temperature down. All of those things that he highlighted. Listen, I thought it was a good speech. I thought he struck the right notes. But like I said, what needs to happen right now is actually actions, right? It's turning the heat down a little bit. But I thought he struck the right notes. What are your thoughts on this?
I didn't listen to the president's entire speech, but saying it is good. The government, of course, the incumbent government is largely responsible for helping to maintain and secure the peace and security in the country. So, how the government leads, the government has to lead by example and do what it needs to do according to the laws that govern our country today, especially during these electoral processes. So, right now, there have been complaints about the voter registration process. The census is still out there, outstanding. Funding, the National Elections Commission is complaining that it doesn't have adequate funding to cover each phase of the electoral process. So, yes, I heard the president, but 6 years ago, we knew we were going to come to today. He should have made sure that his government was fully ready today, from day one, to start this process. I hope that he will meet with his people, the finance minister, and NEC, and resolve. We went from a $563 million budget in 2018 to a $777 million budget today. So what happened to the funding? I said the last time, we used to have budgetary plans 3 years, but now we're doing it on an annual basis. We should have been prepared for today. So just to say short, I really hope what he said will be implemented, as you said, Ben, as everybody is saying today, and it will be put into action.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Dr. Peabody, welcome. Welcome to the show. And as
Thank
we go on, again, we want to urge all of our folks to please remain patient while we use the new system. I'm understanding that the YouTube is not on. They're working on it. Trust me, they're working on it. And it will be okay. They're working as we go live. So everybody just, is going to get better as we proceed. Dr. Peabody, the president spoke, and I think you can see right there on the headline, um, asking folks to reject violence. We have seen little pockets of violence here and there. We will leapfrog into the conversation that was held by VP Buckeye because he did outline specific cases of violence in the last 5 years under this administration when it came to elections. First of all, what do you think? What do you think about the Farmington Declaration, and what also do you think? You think the right tone was struck?
Well, anytime you strike a message that calls for nonviolence, I would say yeah, it is the great tune, but the implementation of it, I think the president did not. I think he did express that. I think it's a great tune, but we need to implement it. We need to go forward in doing it, and we need to part of this rejection of nonviolence is to put in place what is needed so that violence will not come into place. And one of those areas we need to look at carefully. We need to look at like what Jackie said of voter registration. There are concerns that there will be no extension of the voter registration, and that is a very for me it's a concern because there are people who have had some there have been some glitches and other concern. People have not been able to register. People have short so and just not allowing this to take place to be extended. I mean, it's my concern in that area. But I think it was the right tune, nonviolence, and I think all the political parties should be striking that tune when it comes to nonviolence in our country, because we have had a very difficult time over the years. We are still recovering from civil war and violence behavior and all of that. I too join with the president in rejecting that, but let's put in place the different mechanism that will avoid violence. One of those is to look at our election commission, the different laws that it must apply to every political party, that everybody must come to an agreement before something lead to any kind of violence.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Dr. Peabody. Kefa-san, you want to come in on what the president said, and then we'll also talk about what Vice President Joe Walker said. But we'll just stick on what the president said for now, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, well, Ben, I think the peace in Liberia should be everybody, both government and opposition. It's not only rest on the government. Yeah, it's the government of the day, but folks should be mindful of their language they use, the words that they speak out. Um, when you call for if you see stranger in your community, go after them. You're inciting violence because you can stay all your life in America. You decide to go this year and go vote, register and vote, but nobody know you in your neighborhood. You've been out of Liberia for 20 years, 25 years, so they should go after you. So people should watch out what they're saying. For example, right? We saw Costa in District 5. He was going to vote, to register. He had a lot of people behind him. Nothing happened. But when you see that on the other side, you tend to start throwing stuff. Oh, they coming with dogs. Then you get young people come out for the other side throwing stones. But you saw Costa in District 5, nothing. Nothing.
Okay.
You know. So the opposition should be careful. There was what is saying. They should be careful. So the peace in Liberia should be on both sides. Everybody, including the media.
Hmm. Okay. Tommy George. Tommy, can you
Go
hear
ahead.
us?
Yeah, I'm hearing you guys now. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, guys. So we're gonna start now, right? We're going straight into it.
Yeah. The president's statement.
Oh, I already spoke on it. I already
Okay.
first.
So let's. Oh, I'm sorry. So let's move forward to the vice president, the former vice president. His statement was, call it what you may, right? He spoke. He highlighted some of the issues that have happened in the past. He talked about the violence that have happened in the past. He talked about the fact that there were folks, the Telia Ure situation, the Cornelia Crack situation. He talked about all of those things. Um, there are some people who feel that he should not have said it. I disagree. I think, listen, they were talking about Farmington, right? They were talking about people. They were talking about non-violent election. And I think, yeah, people may say, oh, well, maybe he should have waited. He should have done this. He should have done that, blah, 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 blah. But I just want to get your thoughts first. Tommy, what do you think? Let's start with you first. What do you think from the former vice president's perspective? What do you think he was saying, and why he took the route that he took in his speech?
Well, first of all, I would say this: under the WIA administration, the elections that have been held, uh, there have been two incidents where issue of violence occurred with the Tila Ure incident in District 15 and Cornelia Corral issued in the Bannersville area, I think. And but yet and still, though, the credit to this government is that they have conducted elections that people that the opposition won. They accepted the results and so forth. So the former vice president, what he was saying is that such opportunity where you have the international community and major stakeholders that's involved in our electoral process, he was just reminding, sending the message that look, while it's true that there have been peaceful elections under this administration, but we shouldn't forget that there are two incidents that occurred that led to that almost went out of hand. So let us be mindful about that, and we should remember that as we go through this process and committing that there will be violence-free elections. We hope we shouldn't experience what happened concerning these two incidents. So I think he made that clear. But as I said earlier, this government have also been they have done the best in holding elections that was held that they did not win and they conceded. So the credit you give credit to them, but the former vice president, I don't think he was out of place to his comments. I think he was intentional to put on the record that we shouldn't forget what happened, but at the same time, we are committed to this process, and we just do not want to see a reoccurrence of what happened in these two incidents.
Okay. Jackie, what are your thoughts? Your standard bearer, I think his speech, like I said, there was also a controversy that brewed, I think, afterwards and said, well, he wasn't supposed to speak and then he spoke. But having said that, he spoke, right? And I thought his statement went a little further. Yes, he committed to peace, he committed to non-violent election, but he also reminded the international community and the country of what has happened in the past with Telia Ure. He talked about Cornelia Cry. He talked about some of the other issues that had happened in the past. What are your thoughts on what he said, Jackie?
I think the ambassador of VP Borka, he spoke well. Along with other opposition leaders too, Mr. Cummings spoke, and other few opposition leaders also spoke at this at the Farmington Agreement yesterday. What he said was well placed. We do need a reminder. When CDC, of course, was in opposition, CDC didn't hesitate to speak out. They were very, very outspoken, and rightfully so. As a citizen, we all have the right, including political aspirants, to speak out on issues. So I think what he said was well spoken, and we do need a reminder. This is a test. I mean, the government has never ever had, this government, because this is its first term, has never ever had a general elections before. This is a first for it. Yes, we have had several by elections under this government. Yeah, there were issues here and there. In the end, they were resolved. But this is a major election, presidential and legislative election. So a lot of things going to be happening. A lot of things will be unfolding, and we do need to address and identify what has happened over the past recent years and see how we can address it to make sure a lot of these things don't happen anymore. Yeah, there will be things that will unfold, but we need to address situations as they arise. So I think he did a good job by speaking out on those issues.
All right. I will keep Kev for last on this. I want Dr. Peabody to chime in. Dr. Peabody, the former vice president, spoke, and like I said, he did commit to peaceful election. He did commit the Unity Party and to peaceful elections. But what are your thoughts on uh, him highlighting some of the things that has happened in the past? Because there was a little bit of controversy there, especially folks from the ruling party feeling that that was not the forum. Do you think he should have said what he said? I'm sorry.
Well, I think to give a credit to this administration, we have had election. We know there have been some issue in the past, but we saw the last midterm election that brought in a significant amount of opposition. Dillon and others that came to power. We saw a recent election last year that saw opposition again winning. So it's unfortunate that violence happened in the past. When it comes to violence, I think all of our elections have had some kind of violence, some means. I know the vice president made that statement. I don't know whether it was the right place or not the right place, but I think since we're there to commit to peace, so he probably used that as a means of, bringing it out so that others will be aware and know that exactly this that we should all commit and ensure there will be non-violence. But I think to some extent, when it comes to violence, and unfortunately, election time in a West African country in a fragile nation like Liberia, you expect violence, something like that to take place. But I think this message should be to all the political parties, all the partisans, that the leaders, the chairman must stress that message of non-violence. Let's be peaceful when we go to the pool or when we do things. Let's be careful. Let's do it in a civil way so that we avoid, violence and attack on each other. We don't want war. We've been through it and all of that. I think this should be a message coming from everybody, but I'm not sure whether it was the right forum or not the right forum for the vice president.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, we're having a discussion about the Farmington Declaration, Farmington Accord, the Farmington Peace Treaty, call it what you call it, whatever name you want to call it. And like I always tell people, I have some experience when it comes to this Farmington because in
Right.
2017,
In the 2017 one, you were there. Did you sign? You had
yeah,
that
that's what
Farmington out there.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, so we actually laid the foundation for the Farmington for the Farmington agreement. We worked on that document a lot, and so the first one, which was I was chair of Liberty Party, what the political leaders signed, but we were there as witnesses after the program. I think then they get the national chairpersons to say something or do something, but yeah, so that's what it was. That's what it was, and so it was exceptionally interesting to see that they have built on what had happened 6 years ago. So which for me in my mind was progress. Kefa-san, I want you to chime in on this. VP Borkai, highlighting. Let's say what it is. The things that he highlighted, right? Those things did
Ben,
happen.
can we listen to him? Can we listen to him? To the vice
Well, no,
president?
they don't. I don't think they have an audio because I don't think they have an audio. Yeah. So let's go ahead and just discuss it. But I don't think they have an audio. I think there was some issue with the audio in the back. Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, you were ending. That's end
You
what you
really
wanted to say. So
No. So what I was saying was he highlighted some of the issues that happened in the past. The Telia Euro situation, the Cornelia Cross situation, apart from committing to peaceful election, he highlighted those things and talked about the fact that we shouldn't be in a position to repeat those things again. So that's why I was trying to get your thoughts on it. There were people who said, especially folks from your end of the aisle, who felt that that was not the right place for him to highlight the things that he was highlighting. What are your thoughts on that?
well, I'm happy you used the word past, but when the former vice president kind of went halfway to the past, it become an issue that he playing politics with it. Because if you want to go to the past, go all the way to the past, including his time in office. So when you go halfway to the past, you are telling half of the story. You are covering your past. So if we want to have a good Liberia, we have to tell it all. We have to give the whole story. We know that the issue that happened in his government not to be compared with this government. We all know that. We all know the opposition had a free and fair election. They won that election. They jubilated. They enjoy themselves. They are in office. But when there's an issue in District 15 that they knew they were going to lose, afterward, they lost twice, and then issue. So, like I said from the beginning, in time of peace, should come from the opposition themselves too to take part in bringing a peaceful election. Because under Buckeye, we saw the CDC. We saw what they did to the CDC. The footage out there. We can see it. We can see the footage out there. What Joseph Buckeye did to CDC. And I'm saying this. He should be speaking on the massacre that he did on the CDC. That's what he should be speaking on. He should be talking about what we did in the past. We will not repeat that. But to give half story, then he playing politics with it. So he shouldn't give half story. That's my problem with his statement at the conference they had. So we cannot be giving half story. When you give half story, then you misleading the people. He should be responsible for his action in his government when he was a leader in his government. So he gave me half story. So I for one don't actually listen to him. We all know under this government, free and fair election, free and fair election,
So
free.
Kev, can I ask you? So can I ask you a question? Um, are you denying? So the things that VP Boycott talked about, did those things not happen, or are you saying because something happened in the past, he has no right to talk about what had happened? Because we're talking about this
I,
cycle. That's what we're talking about here.
I'm saying what I'm saying here, Ben. I'm saying if you want to talk about electoral violence, you have to speak the whole story. You cannot just give half because let's say somebody who not following Liberia election, right, and tune in and say, "Oh, let me just listen to VP Buckeye." You know what we'll be thinking? Oh, in his government, everything went well. Now, George Weah is government. People start fighting District 15 and this. No, what happened in this government is minute to what happened in the past, and we all know that. We all know what happened in the past under his government. Sedition were massacre, and I keep saying this. So we cannot just cover that. It's like you're telling black people to cover this history of slavery. Say, oh no, now forget about what happened 400 years ago. Let's talk about now. Forget about. Don't worry. When black people want to talk about slavery, no, don't talk about it. Let's talk about now. No, we
So that's what
have
I'm
to.
saying. And guys, y'all can chime in here. Yeah, let's just have a quick small debate about this, and then we'll go to the next topic.
We have to
What are your
read
thoughts on
the
what
whole.
Kev is saying? What are your thoughts on what
Yeah.
Kev is saying?
Somebody talking.
For me, the words, the choice of words using massacre. I mean, I don't know when it was a massacre that took place. Okay, and like you said earlier, Ben, we are now talking about 2023, talking about the way, talking about the election that's coming in 188 days. Okay, what happened in the past? I think is the past. We're talking about what's happening right now. We're looking at the future. That they are calling for a peaceful election, or election that will be transparent and peaceful. So you cannot be looking. I mean, we cannot be talking about 2011 and so forth. We're talking about 2023, and like the president said clearly that they should ensure that we have a peaceful election, a process that will be without chaos. So I think that what we should be talking, preaching this message of of the positive message of peace and tranquility as we approach the elections, instead of talking about the past, like what happened in the past was taken care of, were addressed. We had international force on the ground that took care of that, and so forth. So right now we are talking about the elections are coming, and the president and the former vice president spoke well. I think we should recognize that, and let us also help to propagate the message of peace and tranquility as the elections comes to the year.
What are your thoughts, Jackie, on what Kev just said? He feels that VP Boyka should have highlighted. I mean, listen, I disagree with Kev. I don't think Joe Boyka was talking about 2017 here or 2016. Yes, horrible things happened in 27. I mean 2011, not 2017. I'm sorry. We all condemn what happened in 2011. This was 2011 when the famous November 7 thing happened at the CDC headquarters, right? That's what happened. But what are your thoughts on him saying, you know, what are your thoughts?
So here's the thing. This government has been in office for 6 years, and for Kev to go back to the previous administration, okay, but then the Unity Party could have even gone back to the previous administration, which was the Taylor days. What are you going to say? I mean, how far should we go back, Kev? I don't think your argument holds water well in presenting your government's responsibility today. Election is everybody's business. We are talking about this term, this electoral term, this government, what this government has done at this time. Yes, in the end, they buy elections in the end. No matter what conflict was there here and there, in the end, things went on smoothly. Should what have happened to Talia have happened? No, it shouldn't have. Or to Cornelia Kura? No, it shouldn't have. But in the end, those issues were addressed. The women at one time went to the foreign ministry, and the president met with those women, okay, which was good. He came out and he met with them. The minister of state, he met with them. That was good. That's how you handle stuff. But for you to come here today and say, well, the VP should have gone to what happened under his administration, well, guess what? Under his administration, the Salif Boyka administration, we had the smooth transition of power for the first time in over 75 years. Now, this is a test for this government to see if, because this government term ends very, very soon. This is the 6th year, and now it's trying to fight for a second term. So let's see what is going to happen right now, starting again with the census. The issue with the census, the issue with the voter registration right now, people are not exercising their constitutional rights right now because of the hiccups with this new BVR system. The only logical thing to do right now is for NEC to come out and say, given all these issues that we had in the past, over the past several weeks, we are going to extend the voter registration process. But even if NEC wants to do so, NEC is saying that it is having financial challenges. This goes back to the Minister of Finance and the President to address this issue, because every voter has the right to vote under our to register to vote under our constitution. And when we talk about peace and maintaining the peace, these are some of the things we're talking about. This is how you maintain the peace, to give every voter the opportunity to register to vote. That's the constitutional right. And not
Okay.
having money is not an.
Thank you, Jackie. And please adjust your camera a little bit because your I think they're trying to get a full of your face, the full face of the shot. I think it's the way it's layered. But Mariah, welcome. It's good to have you on.
You're breaking up, Ben.
And I'm glad that you are here because you participated in the Farmington meeting. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you are breaking in. The internet seems to be
Yeah, you're breaking it
fluctuating.
bad.
Okay. Can you guys hear me now? Is it much better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
That,
Mariah,
that,
you participated. You were there. You were there as chief of staff to Mr. Cummings as a member of the CPP. I believe you were on the committee that helped uh, put this thing together also because I saw Mr. Cummings' statement where he shout out a few of you guys who played a role for the CPP. First of all, there was this thing, and I said it in the beginning. There was this thing that VP Boyka was not supposed to speak, and then I saw the agenda, and I didn't see his name on there. Was he speaking for the opposition? You are a member of the opposition. Was he speaking for the opposition? And what do you make of the statement that he made? Does that statement represent the statement from of the collective opposition? Because that's how it came across. It came across he was speaking for the opposition.
I'm not sure it came across as such because everything in his statement referenced Unity Party. So I'm not sure that was a statement from the opposition. You're correct in terms of the agenda. There was no statement from VP Boyka or Unity Party or opposition on the agenda. The CPP was not involved, included, aware of any decision to have any one person speak on behalf of the opposition. I don't think the organizers requested that of us. We have been in touch with them and are part of this process. So I don't know how Ambassador Boyka got on the program to speak. I think quite a few people in the hall, or a lot of people in the hall, did not know as well because they kept referencing the program sheet that everybody had. But like they say, usually the MC has the master sheet. So maybe the master sheet had Ambassador Boyka speaking, but the
Mm.
program sheet did not. And I don't think anybody in the room, maybe except the UP people and others, knew that Ambassador Boyka would be speaking. But we did not know. We were not aware. We didn't approve that any one person would speak for the opposition. And that statement did not reflect the
Yes.
opposition because he didn't
Yeah,
reference, he kept referencing the UP. So
the UP.
that was
Okay.
the Unity Party statement. But in
Yeah. So
terms
that.
of the content of the statement, that's a different conversation. So
Yeah, that's where I was trying to go because, again, like I said, clearly, I mean, I did get a chance to see the program sheet. I didn't see
how
his
you
name
got
on
it
it.
for the program sheet? You're not there.
Well, no, I saw it. Somebody sent it. I mean, I mean, I'm an old signatory to that accord now. So, so
Okay.
they send it to the
Yeah, but if
veterans.
you see
They
the
send it,
program sheet, it's not on the program sheet.
yeah. But the point here is the reason we're talking about this is because it does appear, because when some of the news outlets they carried it like, he spoke on behalf of the opposition. But you did strike a point that most of the things he talked about in his speech was tied to Unity Party. But let's leapfrog to what he said in his speech. If let's just say if all the opposition people had come together and said, let VP Boyka speak for us, was that the speech you guys probably would have agreed on? Did you guys have a problem with him highlighting what happened to Telia, what happened to Cornelia, to what happened, some of the issues that have happened in the past? Was that the right forum? Because there's a debate out there that probably was not the right forum for him to bring something like that up.
So, I mean, I don't think it was a bad speech. Um, there's nothing in the speech that we can really disagree with in terms of the violence that has happened against women in political processes. Um, of course, it would have been even better to involve parties because I'm sure if parties agree, if all political parties had agreed on him speaking on behalf of political parties or coming speaking on behalf of political parties or whoever, they all would have had an input. And we didn't have an input in that speech. I'm sure his speech writers did that. But in terms of the he was saying, I don't think it was
Mhm.
anything that all of us don't already know about. I mean, I was there, matter of fact, when Cornelia was attacked in her district. I was present and helping to get her to a safe place. And I saw what happened, right? So it's not something that we don't know at the public. This is something we've said over and over. But in terms of whether or not it's the right forum, it depends who you ask. I know quite a few people didn't think it was the right forum. That I know the president's speech was it was bland in a way. So it wasn't accusatory, it wasn't defensive. It was kind of conciliatory, like, of course, the president, right? But maybe people expected the same as well from Ambassador Boyka and the UP, because there were, accusations about allegations of the CDC, things that the CDC has done. And so it was pointed accusations. I don't know, I don't remember in the president's speech there being pointed accusations to the opposition or to anybody else. So I think maybe that's what people felt it may not have been the right forum. But I didn't have issues. I don't think that we don't have issues with that in terms of calling out the incidents of violence that we've seen over the last few years, but again, it depends on who you ask.
Okay. I mean, we're going to move on to, we will soon be moving on. I just have one last question for you. And then if anybody else wants to come in, if anybody else wants to come in, they can come in. But my last question for you before we move on to the CPP net case is, what was the atmosphere like in that room? Because, I mean, we were watching it from outside in, right? I remember when we did it, it was very, it was very light. People who were competitors were interacting. I think I posted some old pictures or from 5-6 years ago on my page when we were there. Can you talk about what the atmosphere was like, and was it tense? Was it refreshing? Did you guys interact with one another? Just talk about that, and then let the rest of the guys chime in if they want to. Then we will move on to the next topic.
Correct. And I mean, the atmosphere was it was very light. It was very friendly. It was very, in a way, cheerful. Everybody was like talking to each other, having conversations. I know even the CDC guys tried to get me to take a picture with them, and I was like, "Oh no, I beg you, all the people are they say, honor agent CDC, what is number 5, double agent number 5, so put it to it, and we laughed about it. I was like, "No, so they
You
kept
double,
fooling me."
double,
Carlasco came and was like, "That's a picture, man, that's a picture." Finda and I spoke briefly. UP Tue, Samuel Tue, of course, Amos Tue, I mean. Yes, yeah, Samuel Tue, but yeah, so put into it. But Amos Tue and I spoke, her, Cornelia. I mean, it was civil society, political parties, the cabinet. In fact, it's funny, I was telling the Deputy Minister of Education and the Minister of Youth and Sports that was sitting next to us with the Minister of Justice and Transport. I was talking to Latim and Minister Wilson when the president was about to speak. I said, I really need to go use the ladies' room, but by the time I leave the room right now, I will say that because the president coming to speak, so I walk out. And the person started laughing, right? So it was very so I had to wait until after the president's speech before I went to the ladies' room. But it was very friendly, and I think it
That
was
was a
with
long wait, Mariah. That was a long wait.
it was.
Mariah,
I was like, but you can go. I'm like, no, I think yeah. But it was, to a point, it was a good.
Mariah, I,
Go ahead, Tommy. Go ahead. Just speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mariah, that's something I want you to clarify because social media went viral yesterday. There was a point where Mr. Cummings turned to the former vice president. Can you just, because people get an interpretation of everything that's happening, just share what I mean, I'm sure they were talking. I'm sure they were having some conversation. But people, can you just clarify what all about when he turned his back to former vice president Boyka? I know I'm sure they were talking, but people get their own interpretation about what was in that picture.
Was my you coming in, Jackie?
Oh, you heard me?
I heard you, Tomali, but I thought Jackie was trying to come in.
Oh, okay.
No, I said around, but hey, yeah, you were there, so you can explain. That's what
So
I saw, that he was looking at.
I was sitting on the other side of the back, so I really can't speak to that picture as to what was happening at that moment. Mr. Cummings could have been looking somewhere else, could have been looking to someone else, it could have been anything. So, I wasn't there. I can speak to it. I was sitting on the other side. Hopefully people on the table can speak to it, but I cannot speak to that because I wasn't there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So I think we've exhausted the Farmington agreement thing. Um,
Oh, but sorry. There was there was
go ahead.
anyways,
Go
it's
ahead.
okay. No, there was there was one point that I found to be, but let's move on. It's okay.
No,
Yeah.
sure,
Now,
sure.
before
Okay.
we
Sure,
move
of
on,
Okay,
course.
so
though,
we have everything here to say.
No, okay, so
Right.
I think someone there was something that I saw something about someone had posted a blog. There was a picture of Madame Solis standing in front of Ambassador Boykai,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
someone
Talk
had
about that.
posted
Yes. Yes. Talk
a
about that.
blog about Madame blocking him again or something, and that was after the signing. So they asked all of the signatories to take a picture with the high table, the guests, and initially it was just signatories, and the president, the vice president, the first lady, and the UN rep as well, the neck chair. So they all went up, and then they later called on Madame Sharif to come. But when you're taking those kinds of pictures, and that's what I was saying, that's one of the things I observed. When you're taking those kinds of pictures, you want in fact, the president stands in the middle of the picture. And so when they started going up, the UP chairman, right? Oh, the UP chair, Ambassador Boyga, walked up and literally walked into the middle of the picture. And so they were standing in the middle. The UP chair was there. No other chairpersons in that picture, because it was only for the signatories, the political leaders. But UP chair is there because he went up with Ambassador Boyka and he stood in the middle. And then so when the president came, the first lady came, protocol was just standing there. So when they called Madame Salif, protocol was also there, and she just stood like right there trying to figure out where she's going to stand. And that's how they told her she could stand right there. So it was
So,
what
so Boyga stood where the
was a
president
bit
was supposed to
awkward.
stand. This is the picture. So this is the picture right here. This is the angle right here. So it depends on the angle you are looking at, right? The other picture
Yes.
is this angle. It shows him. It shows her standing in front of him. But anyway, it's listen. So I
Yeah,
think
so well,
Jackie.
I don't know if it's what the president was there,
So
but
Jackie.
usually
So Vice
that middle.
President
So
Joe
if you
Boyga
see
was trying to
Mr.
take the
Cummings,
president's spot.
Mr. Cummings went and
no,
stood
but
on the side. So if you see there, he's on the side with other, political leaders. By the way, I want to speak about that young lady's speech. I don't know if you already talked about it. The young lady in the red, but Mr.
Yeah.
Cummings stood on the side, right? And so that's how they literally had to shift. So when the president, the first lady, and Joel came, and then when Madame Sharif came, that's when they just told her to sit there. But it was a bit of an awkward moment. I think it also gave protocol. I don't know what's the protocol around that. Whether when you have the sitting president, the sitting vice president, the first lady, the former president and the former vice president, how the pictures or the sitting arrangements and stuff were done. Because even Madame Sharif sat on a different table, Ambassador Boyka sat on the table with other political leaders, but he was still throughout the program referenced as former vice president, which he is. And so when they reference the former president, they have to reference the former vice president. And
Yeah.
so that happened throughout the program. But that picture moment was a bit awkward because then it's where does the former president stand? The former vice president is standing in the middle.
Yeah.
So when
Well,
you look from
listen.
the other side, it looks like she was blacking
Overall,
him.
overall, I thought. Go ahead, Jackie.
No, I just wanted to add that photos like this is up to the protocol to organize the different our different leaders, political leaders, to set them up for the photos. I mean, so for me personally, Madam Salif, right next to her should be President Weah, because these are two presidents. Then on the opposite end should be the two VPs. And then you go from there. I mean, that's how I think it should have
Yeah,
been. But
but
I
and
see
that's
the first
why.
lady who is regular Madam Salif. It should have been President Weah right next to Madam Salif, and then you have the two VPs come next. But anyway, hey, I'm not
But
a
so
protocol officer, but I would
can I come in? So I'm not
that
protocol, and I don't know nothing about protocol. But I think protocol also couldn't do much at that point because Ambassador Boyka had already gone to stand where he stood, right? So it wasn't protocol saying stand here to be able to say this other person will stand here and our
So
person
he
will
went
stand
and
here.
stood there. So he
Yeah,
stood there.
he
Okay.
went and stood there. He and the chairman. So if you see
But
right
that's what it,
behind
why
is the
kept Ambassador
chairman.
Barker was
Robert,
not Ambassador Barker took the president's spot. Do you have
No
anything
man.
to say about that?
no, but I'm
So,
informed.
so when the
My
others
understanding is
came
that
and then protocol had to find a way to figure it. And then when they called Madam Sharif, because she wasn't called initially, so when they called her up and she came up, she didn't stand. She stood there and was like literally they were having small talk. But then that's when they told her to stand where she stood. So it seemed like she was blocking Ambassador Boycott, but they couldn't tell him to move. I mean, even if
yeah,
he wasn't supposed to be standing there, if they had told him to move, they probably felt it would have been a whole issue.
Yeah,
my,
yeah.
my understanding is that
Listen,
my understanding is that the president asked the first lady to stand between the former vice president and Madam Salif. I think he made. I understand that he asked to her to stand between two of them for that picture to be
Why they're
taken.
going to why they're going to be with you or what?
I don't know,
okay.
but
Well,
I asked
now
the
the
president.
listen,
President,
protocol
listen.
officer
the
Tommy
president, the
loves
president
gossip.
asked.
Tommy
No, no,
likes
no,
my
no,
gossip.
no,
He's
no, no. My
trying to
understanding is
say something
not
here.
to
And
Hey,
I'm sure that Kev Hassan text him. I'm sure that
no,
Kev Hassan just text him
and I think
messages. Yeah.
nothing.
But let me say this. All in all, and we're gonna end on this
Listen,
note. Oh,
Ben,
um,
the whole situation was organized. The whole situation was organized. I think probably Pape just forget where he was. So
okay, but let's say this. Let me say this.
Man, get the picture
All
out
in
of the mouth.
all, I think what I think though
Mariah
is
can
it
tell the
was
picture.
for me, all in all, I think it was a beautiful moment, right? It's history making. Just the fact you see the former president, the former vice president, the current president, all these political leaders, everybody coming together. I thought it was a good moment for the country. I hope we maintain this spirit of unity. We are in a competitive election. A majority of the folks in that picture are trying to unseat the current president, so you can understand, some of the things. But then the other thing I would say, look, I think it was a good moment for the country. The country got a chance to see all of these political figures, the former president, former vice president, current vice president, all of these political leaders sitting together. I think it sends a good message. I think it should send a message also to the supporters out there who take these things very personal, who act like, these people don't talk to each other or they're enemies, or if somebody go and take a picture with the president or somebody take a picture with Boakai, then it makes it look like, oh, this person is doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. But all in all, I think it was a good day. But Mariah, thank you for your first hand front row seat invitation. I did see you and Kalasco hugging, and I was worried about you because when I saw you, Kalasco, and some of those CDC people hugging, I said, "There she go." Me and you in the same group now with double agents. So I was like, "There she go,
Thank you.
there she go, double agent five is
Without
now."
getting to the people that say I support
Do it.
the
some of
what about
us,
the fake? The person
Yeah,
I yes
exactly.
or
You
the
never know. You never know.
But
You
you're,
never know your
you're, you're,
50K may become small. So you never know. But guys,
you're doing CPB. You're doing Ben.
Yeah,
that's
You're
and
what
doing
I'm
this
saying
is
now. We are the double agents in CPP. That's the thing. You got to understand
virtually.
this thing.
Okay, I
But let me
see.
say this. Let's go on to the next topic. And Mariah, I want you to take the lead on this because I think this is important. There's a lot
But
of
before that,
misinformation.
Ben, yes, I did take a picture of Carrasco and the ZZ guys. In fact, today, they had a diplomatic talk on women in political participation, women in politics, at the EJS Center, Presidential Center, the UN Women and the Swedish Embassy. So a lot of women in politics were invited, and during the reception, the CDC women were like, Mariah can sit down with us. Mariah can sit down with us, can take a picture. I said, you're trying to put me in trouble. And they said, oh, okay, the people, I said, that thing you're doing, I think it's intentional now. Because anyway, I see CDC people now, Mariah can take a picture with us. What?
Yeah.
But it was so funny because, and Ruth, from Ministry of Labor, the Assistant Minister, now will not clash with Facebook and everything. It's just like, mom, we're not letting politics come between us. We took pictures, they will laugh. And I said, y'all don't post that picture on Facebook. I said on Facebook, we'll post it on Facebook, but we laughed about it. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that we can disagree on issues. We can disagree on policies. We can disagree on governance. We can disagree on how they're governing the state and how we would do it differently. We can disagree on the things that affect the Liberian people, the mismanagement of our resources, the show of wealth, the incompetence. We can call them out. We can disagree with them on these things, right? But I don't think we should personalize it and then get to a point where you see the person in the speech, you can speak, you can say hello. If car even come in, hit the person, you're not even yell. They say, "Oh, my friend, row." Like we can do that. We're a very small, close knit, close knit society. And
Thank you.
of course, we'll have differences in terms of our political alliances. But when it comes down to the human relations, I mean, I see how you call it Mobile Malu at you, and that's the other thing. When we're with the partners, whether we're having meeting at the UN HQ or with ECOWAS or Sudan, like any of these partners, when they're around, we're having these meetings. Everybody's cordial. Everybody's cordial.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking, and having conversation, disagreeing as well. But you don't lose your humanity and be vicious, devious, envious about other people, that you disagree with, whether in opposition, whether in ruling party, across the board, because you disagree with the person and make it personal. I don't do my politics
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. Thank you, Mariah. And let's listen. I don't want us to run up too much on time. We're going to go to the next topic, which is the CPP versus National Elections Commission. And Mariah, again, we're going to be counting on you to kind of break this thing down for us, right? Because there's a lot of misinformation out there on this case. There are people who have said, I've seen posts on Facebook say Mr. Cummings and the CPP is saying people shouldn't register to vote. They're saying that it should stop the voter registration. There's been a lot of information out there on the CPP neck case at the Supreme Court. By the way, first of all, what is the status of this case? We're gonna give you about a minute or two, maybe about 3 minutes, to just give a brief overlay, and then we will kind of like chime in and ask you some questions about where the case is and what is this case about, pretty much.
Okay. So the status of the case, the hearing was yesterday. Both parties made arguments. Councillor Elochosto made arguments on behalf of the CPP. The next lawyer, NEC's lawyer, was there as well. And usually, as is customary, when you make arguments, the court withholds the ruling until the next time they set a date to give the opinion. And so
Mhm.
we await the scheduling of the date for the court to rule. But I know you say you heard people on Facebook talking about trying to stop. Well, I heard Delon talk about it in that way, and that we're trying to stop the process, and stuff like Mr. Cummings was ill-advised and misled and how he sits there for people, lawyers who looking for legal fees to fool him and go file a case that is premature and blah blah blah. So I heard all of those as well, and I think it's unfortunate because one, and I do intend to respond to him, and I will do that. But in fact, I thought he would have been at the Farmington signing agreement, at the Farmington agreement signing, but he wasn't. So I will have to respond to that. But I think it's unfortunate, and people should learn to stay, in their areas. And clearly, the law and understanding the law isn't Dylan's area. But the case that was filed before the Supreme Court, it's not about stopping the process. It is not, and anybody who understands, the law and what these different cases are would know immediately that it's not about stopping the process. Dylan should have consulted with his lawyers, but I don't want to make this conversation about him because I will respond to him directly. But just for the benefit of the public, if someone wants to stop a process, they will file prohibition. The CPP did not file a prohibition. The CPP filed an action of irreconstitutionality. So what does this mean? When you have, because the only branch of government that can interpret the Constitution is the Supreme Court. Even within the judiciary, is the only court that can interpret the Constitution. So when you don't understand, or when you have one explanation or interpretation or idea of what a constitutional clause is, the only people you can go to explain it is the Supreme Court. And so what is CPP asking the Supreme Court to do? CPP is simply asking the Supreme Court to determine whether the process that NEC is currently undertaking is constitutional. Simple. If the Supreme Court says yes, it's constitutional, the process has continued to go on. If they say no, it's not constitutional, then the NEC will have to, the public will know that NEC proceeded in violation of the Constitution, and NEC will have to decide what to do next. But I think what people don't understand, or maybe they do understand, just trying to be on propaganda, is the fact that if CPP wanted to stop the process, CPP would have filed a prohibition. An irreconstitutionality action does not stop any process. It doesn't put a hold, a bar, or nothing on any process. It is simply asking the Supreme Court to say, please tell what the next actions to carry out voters registration before demarcation is constitutional. Simple as that. And the reason CPP is asking is because the Constitution provides that immediately next should demarcate, in fact, shall, so it's mandatory, it's not discretionary, that after the conduct of a census, the National Elections Commission should immediately demarcate, immediately after the conduct of a census, they should demarcate constituencies where people will register, and so that, each of the constituency numbers should be aligned with the new census numbers, right? So that no one constituent is like way overly populated than the other, pretty much. And so we know now, given the census, that our population has increased to 5.2 million people. There's arguments about, but it's not final and stuff. Even the final one will not tell us that we're going back to 4.5 million people. It will not be significantly different. It will not tell us we're going back to 4.5 million people. So we know that our population has increased to 5.2 million people. And the Constitution says when you have the new numbers immediately after the conduct of a census, and you have the new numbers, NEC must demarcate. So that the different constituencies, you don't want to have one constituent get 6,000 people, another constituent got 12,000 people. It's like you got to be as close as possible. And so that's what the framers intended. And so NEC carrying out voter registration before doing the demarcation in line with the new 5.2 million people that we now have. All CPP is saying, is this constitutional? Is this not in violation of the Constitution? And the only people that can tell us whether next action is in violation or is not in violation is the Supreme Court. And that's all that is. It has no bearing on the process. It doesn't ask to stop the process or anything of such.
So listen, I think you did an excellent job laying this thing out within the short period of time you just did. And I think that's why you're good at what you do. So kudos to you, our sister. So this has no. Just to reiterate, you're saying the intent here was not to stop the process. The intent, can I say, the intent was it self correction to say, okay, you know what, we're doing something wrong, and is that what can I? I'm trying to break it down for the layman who's listening on the radio. Can you help us with that, and then the rest of the guys can ask the questions.
So one of the things we need to understand, and I don't think people understand it a lot, because we're not really teaching our Constitution in school as mandated by the Constitution, because even the Constitution
Okay.
says that the Constitution must be taught in schools. But because we're not doing that, I don't think a lot of people understand what the Constitution is, how powerful that document is, that order of law, that it is, the number one law, that any other law that is in violation of that Constitution is null and void. So what the Constitution says is paramount, and that the Constitution is an organic body of law. It is what creates us as a state. It's what gives each branch of government its powers. It is what enables and empowers government officials to do certain things. The Constitution gives you rights and responsibilities. It gives you duties as a citizen, as a government. It should be our Bible as a country. It is the country's Bible. And so whatever the Constitution does not give, it withholds. When the Constitution says you shall do this, our drafters of the Constitution, our people meant you must do it. It's not discretionary. It's not. So when the Constitution said this is what must happen, the Constitution also gave times as to
Yeah.
when certain things should happen. So if the
Yeah.
Constitution says you must conduct census every 10 years,
Yeah.
it's a must. You cannot violate that. Remember, one of the grounds for removal of a president is violation of the Constitution. And people don't know that. It is not your own will. If the Constitution says you must do this at this time, you must do it.
So I think so that's your
Unless where
point.
you go back, so I'm coming. Unless where you go back to the legislature, or some in other cases they will do how they call it, the stuff that legislators stuff, something, and say, oh, we decided, we the people, because the Constitution is also with the people, or whatever, representatives of the people made this. But the point I'm raising to you has been, because the Constitution is so definite, it's so powerful, it's the organic land of the land. If you believe that it is being violated, you have the right as a citizen, as a party, as an organization, as a Liberian, as a group, to go to the Supreme Court and say, this thing is a violation of we think this is a violation of the Constitution. Please let us know if NEC is proceeding correctly, or if NEC is doing it in line with the Constitution. That's what it is.
So it's pretty much like so can we say kind of like a bill of information? Guys, y'all can come in. Anybody can come in.
No,
Terminate, you
not
want to jump in?
pretty much, yes. Necessarily.
That's what
I
I'm
mean, bit
saying.
of information.
That's
Yeah,
kind of like
kind of, it's
information,
information
right?
to the Supreme Court, but it's bit of
Yeah.
information that is an actual legal pleading that you can file. It's a
Pleading, yeah.
legal
So the
text
Supreme Court,
precept that you can file, and they have times that you can file a bit of information. But technically, yes, it's letting the Supreme Court know that we believe the Constitution is being violated by next actions. Can
So we need your
let
opinion.
us know if this is a violation of the Constitution or not? Because other people got different interpretation. Other people say, oh, then they wait for the final, that the legislature got to do threshold and they can only do on the final. But the Constitution didn't say after the final census results. So all of those things, and we're not in the position to interpret the Constitution. It's the Supreme Court that can do that. And I think, regardless of whether you support someone or not, whether you're leaning or falling or bending over, whatever it is you're doing, You need to recognize when it comes to matters of the Constitution, if anybody is trying to protect the sanctity of the Constitution, you need to acknowledge that. And in acknowledging that, is saying, I don't care whether it's not about CPP winning the case, because people say like, oh, when CPP win the case, then it gives CPP, edge or advantage. And no, every Liberian, and these are things, some of the things that opposition can and should collaborate around, issues of elections integrity. We can say we want free, fair, transparent elections, and then we're having elections that may not be in line with the Constitution. How is it credible? If it's a violation of the law, if the process violates what the Constitution demands. So it's
Thank you,
simply
Mariah.
saying, let us
So,
know
the
if
con- so,
NEC is proceeding correctly or not.
2 minutes, George, and then
so
Jackie can
Supreme
come
Court
in.
has the Supreme Court have they reserve the ruling, right? The full bench or
Right,
only
they
the
heard
justice
the
in chamber? Which
matter,
one?
the reserve ruling, and then gave a date on when they will give the ruling.
Oh, okay.
Jackie, you have any question on this?
Well, Mariah, I am glad that was filed with the Supreme Court, and we look forward to hearing the Supreme Court judgment on that. I'm very having listened to, for one, being very concerned about this issue, and even when we had Representative Gray here on Monday, I kept asking him questions about that. What is the legislature doing about this whole stuff? Because we have, as Mariah said, that we already are in violation of the Constitution since 2018. And there was no reason or no justification for us to not have had we should have found the money. The money was there, and we should have said we did. And now we are in a electoral crisis right now. So I'm glad that was filed. I'm looking forward to hearing what the Supreme Court will say regarding this. I have a question, Mariah, though. In regards to the extension of the BVR process, the system that has been there's been problem, the data hearing, entry clerks, the printers, everything has gone wrong because we have a new system, and also maybe because the people, some of the staff were not properly vetted and trained, and so they had problems. What are your thoughts on calling for an extension because as they start their job right now, phase one is on Sunday? What are your thoughts regarding that?
So we understand and see the need for an extension, given the issues, the plethora of issues you've mentioned, right? Unfortunately, the NEC has released a statement that the process will not be extended, and that the first phase ends on the 9th. In fact, they released that statement before the Farmington agreement yesterday, right? And one of the things that we raised, in the CPP was, remember when the voter registration timeline was amended, it was adjusted. I don't know if everybody remembers that. We've
Yeah, I
adjusted the
remember.
time.
Yeah.
And the danger and the risks associated with that decision was that it gave us no more room to tweak or adjust anything else, or we will be going beyond the October 10th constitutional requirement to hold elections, right? And so these are some of the issues that people foresee and make this the calendar in a way flexible or so, but we lost that flexibility when we had to readjust the timelines. And so if you even look at the timelines now, Jackie, it is so tight. Everything, it's almost like if you go one day above something, you're going into October 11th. Pretty much, it's so tight, right? But that's government's issue. That's next responsibility. These are things that they should have thought about, correct? Because what we're seeing now with the slope is, remember, this is also our first time using BVR. First time. Some of our people who are employed, they're not computer literate,
Right.
correct? And so you're giving them these tablets and these electronic stuff to type in people's names. It is one of the slowest things ever, especially at many polling stations. So now what people are even doing is people who got data on the phone helping people to just put the information online and then they go stay in the line so that they can do it. Then some centers now are doing, when you do the BVR online, they give you a line that you stay on. If you haven't done it online, they give you a line. So they got two lines. And so they'll take 30 minutes from one line, 30 minutes from another line. They'll take 10% stamp, whatever they're doing. So to make it easier, now people are helping people at the station to put in their information online so that they can go on the PVR line. But the process is slow. And because the process is slow, you're disenfranchising a lot of people. People have to come back almost every day. People come to spend all day. They're leaving their businesses, the small widow markets, the children at home, whatever it is. Sometimes they get frustrated and they leave. The other issue we've also had, and it was discussed earlier as well, is that some centers complain about running out of cards. And so they're closed for 2-3 days. They're running out of cards, or they've run out of cards. People go there, they say, oh, we get cards, we can print your voter registration card. And so you're disenfranchising people. And now, mind you, this is also a constitutional issue.
Yeah.
Because the
Right.
Constitution provides for the right of every Liberian to participate in the political process. And so these are serious issues that, of course, needs to be addressed now. How, if it's in terms of extending it, like I said, they're not extending it. And part of the reason I think they're not going to extend it is because we're going to run over the October 10th deadline.
October 10th.
The new timeline is too short. But I think there are valid, justifiable reasons for them to extend the process.
So I have a follow-up question to this, and I know you're not next, so but if you can just help because you're on the ground. And I think I'm wondering if part of the reason why they're not doing this also has to do with funding. Because even if this is the issue and you just said voter disenfranchisement, they can hurry up, hire more people. You got a lot of college students while they just all you have to do is to hire more people. Maybe they don't have more machines. I don't know what the problem is, because you can still continue or begin phase 2 or phase 3. All you do, you add more manpower and get more machines, more stations as you continue the other phases, but it will require more resources. So is it also the issue of funding? That's why NEC is having this issue. And I go back to the fact that 6 years ago, this government knew that it was having a major election today. The money should have been sitting in the bank account, and that we shouldn't even be discussing financial interests at the point when we got 6 months to go.
I completely agree. Because last time, and maybe they've gotten the money now, but they said the Minister of Finance should have given another $10 million, I think this month or the 15th of March. And, up to the time NEC was at the legislature, they couldn't confirm that the money had hit their account, in fact, on that same day. And so whether it has at this point, the public has not been informed. But it is definitely an issue. In fact, I believe the partners are also awaiting government's contribution also to be able to give theirs, maybe true or not. But the point of the matter is the government has not been able to fulfill their promises to fund the elections. And again, it goes back to the issue of constitutionality. It is elections are constitutional. There are duties on the government to perform. You have to, right? So if you violate it, if the grounds for removal is, and we as a people can't just let things slide all the time, oh, let's stay, they are not happening, oh no. I mean, all of you in the United States, you know all the things they can do to the Constitution. That's what makes our country great.
Right.
That's what makes our country. Yes, the Constitution. You can be president, whoever, the Constitution. You can play around it. And we've just violated our Constitution in multiple ways. We've literally just set it aside. And it's not good for the country. It's not good for our democracy. It's not good for our governance system. It's definitely not good for our peace as as a people, because yes, NEC doesn't seem to have money to do all of what you're suggesting, to hire more people. Most of these places got one or two persons, so if they got hire 3 persons to input names and stuff, that's additional cost. And does NEC have the money? NEC doesn't seem to have the money. So those are
Thank you,
very
Mariah.
major issues.
Thank
So
you, Mariah.
as
And
a
and, and
legal,
listen,
can I
I
ask
think
one
this is. Go ahead, Jackie.
question? So as a
Yeah,
legal
go ahead.
profession, you understand Constitution and our laws that govern our country. Is there anything that can be done at this point on the legal front to protect the voters regarding what is going on right now?
Well, this is part of what the CPP is doing, because you and I cannot interpret the Constitution. It's only the
Right.
Supreme Court. So we may see that, okay, but the Constitution says this, but you didn't do it. It's unconstitutional. You might go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court may interpret it differently, because remember, the Supreme Court has the right to interpret the Constitution, right? So you can only go to the Supreme Court, and then what isn't constitutional, what isn't done correctly, is not done at all. And so if the Supreme Court finds that the NEC violated the Constitution, there was, certain process that was not in line with what the Constitution says, then you're protecting the citizens and the people, because then you're giving an opportunity to go back and redo and do it better. And so this is part of why it's important for everybody who's a true opposition to be able to say, let's support this, let's galvanize around this, let's hear from the Supreme Court. Let the Supreme Court tell us that this is constitutional or not, and not try to throw jabs and insult people intelligently and come is trying to get in newspaper that what they file on lawsuit to stop process for. I think that was childish to have come from a sitting senator. But my point is, you cannot hate this process. You cannot, not acknowledge that this is in the interest of the Liberian people. Because like you're saying, all of these people being disenfranchised, may have an opportunity, if it's found that this process is unconstitutional, maybe then they can do it better. So like you're saying, within a short time, maybe the government can then find the money to fund the election, so that instead of having one person inputting information in the system, you got 3, 4. So like you said, you can do it in a short period of time, but with more manpower, more logistics, more machines, and be able to carry out the elections on time. But other than that,
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
But
Thank you.
Mariah,
And
let me
we
let me ask you one question here, Mariah. Don't you think this will pose a problem to the opposition at this time with all that is going on? Don't you think it should be a collective effort of all the opposition saying what is happening right now, especially with this voter registration? I mean, no extension, and there will be thousands of people that will not be registered. For this election.
Dr. Peabody, Mr. Cummings has called for opposition collaboration on several other issues, including elections integrity. Since last year, before we even got into electioneering or whatever, because what you're saying is something that affects everybody. I mean, it affects even the CDC, if they care to admit. Because again, yes, you think you're registering your partisans, but for now to elections, that's 6 months, that says yes in electoral years. And so most other people could become disenchanted more and might leave you and support someone else. So it doesn't benefit anybody. It affects everybody in the process. And this is why opposition does need to come together on these issues and speak about it in one voice and speak about it together and take actions around it together. It's not about who president and who senate bearer, who vice senate bearer. It's about issues, collaborating on issues that affect the country. And so even if one opposition leader is doing it, it doesn't stop other opposition leaders from saying, this is a good thing, let's support it. It doesn't, and so it is not about this person or that person. It is about the country and how these decisions affect the lives, the quality of life of our people. So yes, opposition should, but also civil society. This is where civil society comes in as well. It's not always opposition, because some of the things that opposition will speak about and talk about that people will label to be political, civil society can speak about it because it becomes an issue of human rights, an issue of people's rights, an issue of civil rights and liberties. It becomes an issue that civil society can speak about. But unfortunately, under this Josh Ria CDC government, even some civil society organizers who are vocal and speaking about these issues are labeled opposition. And so what are we doing as a people when
Exactly.
we close that space? When we suck out any critical voice and attribute political labels to them? What are we doing as a people? Who then speaks for us? And so these issues, for example, there's an issue about who knows where the case that they're using to do the voter registration, because it's a case, they got all the things inside the machine, the cards, everything they put in the case, they lock it, they get each person. Who knows what the cases can go after each day? After each day, all the registration centers, when they finish registering people per day, what place can carry that kit? They can carry who with them?
But,
Somebody
but
can come
Mariah,
pick
let me
it
ask
up.
a question.
When
Mariah,
I'm
let me
getting
ask
to
you.
a point, let me just learn.
Ye-
Somebody can come pick
Yeah,
it up
okay.
and take it from there. They can bring it back to them in the morning. Citizens, parties, people, civil society, those are questions that you ask. Because somebody could carry home, open it, and start registering people inside the house. Is it
And we've been
what
here
happens? You have,
already.
yeah, so you have these issues that everybody needs to talk about, whether it's civil society, whether it's government, whether it's opposition, whether it's no opposition, citizens, ordinary people, call out these things. Like Mr. Kami said, it's also your responsibility to document these things. Everybody can have a smartphone, record things, you see them, report it to the appropriate authorities, do your part. Because trust me, any decision that comes out of elections that are not credible also affects you.
So let me ask. You struck a good point, and we have to go because we're out of time on this issue. But there is something called the IPCC. I know when in 2017, when I was chair of Liberty Party, there was something at the NEC called IPCC, right, where all these issues is, I think it's the Inter-Party Consultative Consortium or something, whatever it means, or the IPCC. Is the IPCC still working? Is that tool still available? Because these are the questions that that's a very that's a very pointed question you asked just now. Where are those? Who's taking those kids home? Are they reporting it at the end of every day to NEC offices? Are they reporting it to sub offices? Who's in charge of these things? Those are the kind of questions that I think needs to go into the IPCC process. And I think NEC holds all these consultative meetings periodically. Every time I see it on the Facebook page, they say, "Oh, well, we're going to be meeting today to talk about BVR." So, do you think
So the
maybe that should be?
IPCC, yeah, the IPCC is still operating. Of course, every party has reps to the IPCC. We also have our reps to the IPCC, and these questions are also asked. In fact, we've gone to centers to ask them, where do you guys take this at the end of the day? And they said, oh, our RS or something, the person. So every center has one person that's assigned to several centers in a constituency. constituency, and it said, oh, the person comes and picks it up in the evenings and brings it back in the morning. So NEC will have to, note or have a track of all of who are in charge of centers, and where do they take it, because they're the ones taking it from the staff at NEC. So yes, these are questions that come up at IPCC meetings. I understand it's usually very heated. All the commissioners are there as well, and there are issues that have come out of IPCC meeting as well, from different political parties that have been addressed there. But it's something that the public also needs to know, because IPCC meetings are not necessarily carry live or open to the public,
Exactly.
and so they would know that.
Exactly.
So these forums and platforms are what you use to inform the public, so that they themselves can be concerned and start asking questions when they go register to vote. Say, my man, when you finish to do, I can carry the thing. Oh yeah, I can carry them. Oh yeah, you have to be. Everybody gotta be. We gotta own this process, right? It gotta be
True.
our process, because it's a key decision making period for us as a
True.
people.
So thank you guys, and I
So
think we've exhausted.
can I ask a follow-up
Yeah, we're
question
running
to
against
that?
time, Jackie. Go ahead. What was the last question?
No, it's just yeah. So when these daily registrations are being done, is NEC providing these preliminary results to the political parties, so everybody involved, or displaying it somewhere to say, okay, on day one, this is what we accomplished today in Monserrado County, Bapolu, and what have you? Are these results being put out there? They should be able to tally and to give that information within a 24-hour period.
I
Are
guess
they
they
doing
should.
that?
And NEC, I don't think NEC is doing that, on the Facebook page or the website, at the moment. What I do know is happening, if you have an observer at a center, at the end of each day, they send you the record of how many persons, they send it to the observers, of how many persons were registered, how many men, how many women, and your observer should then send that information to the party, either to the aspirants or the district or the county leadership or whatever. But I saw today, as well, that they do share that information, after every day, on how many persons are registered at that center. But in terms of collating all of that information, because it's just a few centers, what a next should release that report to the public, every day, to say at the end of the day, we registered this number of persons in Monserrado, in Bomi, in Cape Mount. That could also help with transparency around the process, because then when the process ends, if you registered, say 900,000 persons, on the last day in total, and people keeping track of the numbers, and then you come and say, we registered 2 million people, then it start adding, right? So maybe
Right.
in the interest of transparency, next should be doing that. Do they have the capacity? Again, it comes down to it, to collect all of that data. If it's coming to the system, it should be electronic, right? So can they get that electronic information collated after every day and inform the public per county? I think they should.
Thank you. Thank you, Mariah. And listen, I think we're running out of time, so we're gonna run straight into the last topic, which has to do with this VP picks. We'll ask Mariah straight, since she's chief of staff to Mr. Cummings. When is Mr. Cummings announcing his VP pick?
So
What is soon, Mariah? You've been saying soon since January.
no, nobody been
So,
saying
so,
nonsense, Janet. Mr. Cummings
Every time we ask the
announced.
question, everybody says soon and soon and
but,
soon. First of
Listen,
all,
I
what is
just
but,
soon.
but let me,
No
who on
one
your
says,
short list?
no
but
one
can I
says
ask?
soon, laugh, because
Who?
everybody can say
Yeah,
soon.
who on your short
Mr.
list?
Cummings,
Let's ask the question.
he announced his VP 2017 in April, right?
Okay, so we're in April.
And so we're in April.
So it's coming in
So
April.
But,
Can you
that's
confirm?
what I'm saying, soon. I'm not saying it's coming in April. I'm just saying last year he announced in April. We're in April now, so it can't be any further from
but,
this vicinity.
but let me ask.
So I'm,
So you guys are waiting on nobody that answer the tier one of GMB, right? You guys are doing at your own pace.
There's no strategy around this. The only strategy around it is the team that is working with him to vet, the VP picks. That's
Who on
the
the
only.
who on the betting team?
And the
Who's on the
question,
betting team? Who are the
I
Benjamin,
people
will
on the
tell you
betting
that
team?
so you can get people to go to
no,
the
but the
person
chairman,
already. You know, I can give you
no,
that
but
information. Why you even ask me?
because
I just
the
tried.
pool
That's
of
Who
all.
on the short?
the pool of VP picks, the pool. I think everybody look at the same group of people because when you talk to a person in UP, they tell you say the same people that incoming on a pool as we hearing, the
Why
same people in
who the
Boycott
people
pool.
who the people in common school? Why you never people in common
But
school?
can you throw out some
I mean,
names? Throw out some names,
No,
Mariah.
why
Throw some
would
names
I
out
do
there.
that?
But
That's the beauty
Mariah,
of the process. I think, it's funny because the couple of reasons you don't want to do that. In fact, I think the first one I even came anywhere, when people started saying, oh, Mr. Cummings is considering Kun or ANC talking to Kun, boom, Kun shows up in another conversation. So, bro, like I was saying, part of the reason
one thing I know,
you
one thing
want
I
to
know.
protect your process. No, but on a more serious note, you want people coming to start quoting your VP candidates that you already have a conversation with. Because maybe they will poke and steal friend, then people steal candidate, then people steal. But at the end of the day, though, you want to protect your process for several reasons, especially if you have a vetting committee, as in Mr. Cummings' case. You want to protect the names of those people because you don't want them to be exposed and to something that work. Two, you also want to protect the names of the candidates because look, you have to give them the chance or opportunity and not. So if I know Tomalin talking to Mr. Cummings, and then Ben also running as president, but if Tomalin goes to talk to Ben, then Ben say, oh, but I know you already talking to Mr. Cummings, so why you can't talk? Like all of those things, those are things that are all background stuff. People should have the opportunity to be able to talk to whoever. People should be able to vet all of
Okay,
the
okay,
options.
Mariah.
And you have to
Anybody else
protect
got a
the
question
people
for
involved in that process.
But
anybody got a question for her
but
on this VP pick? Mr.
yeah,
Cummings?
Mariah,
yeah,
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Mariah.
Alright. Oh,
There are let me say rumors going around that Mr. Cummins and Mr. Boyka will go on a ticket. Is there anything like that?
that shit left out there. Was it?
Is Mr. Cummings running for vice president or are you running for president? Which one? Can we confirm that Cummings will be on the ballot as president?
Yes. Next.
But why are you
Yeah, but
saying no with strength? You're not
my thing
saying
is
that.
that
I say yes. Next. Ben, what else I'm gonna say? Because the reason I even know why we're having a conversation again, because like Tomani said, the train left the station. I think everybody knows at this point that we have three major candidates in the race. And I think it's also a good thing for Liberians to be able to choose whoever they want to be their president, to be able to mobilize galvanize support for the person you want to be your president. And I think it's good for us as a country that we have three major contenders. When we're going into 2017, we have a five or so or six or whatever, but at the end of the day, every elections you will have more options to choose from, and people should be able to have the opportunity to do that. That's why so many people in our past fought for what we today have, multi-party democracy, for Liberians to be able to have options before we only have one or two parties. And may so rest in peace, people like Bacchus Matthew, other leaders before us, they fought for this even some of the current, you know, progressives that we probably know or hear about now, they all fought for multi-party democracy. And so we as a people should protect it. You have three major candidates and several other candidates on the ballot. Make a choice you can live with. Decide what is it that this country needs at this moment. What is it that I know will happen for us, regardless of whether I know the president-elect or not? What do we need as a people? When you ask yourself those questions, then you look at your choices you have. Who has the ability, capacity, knowledge and credibility to do what we need. I'm sorry, Ben, but we cannot continue to use, the fact that few people think they have monopoly over propaganda and strategy and politics to be able to confuse our people. That's it.
So can I ask you,
Thank you.
Mariah, a
Anybody else
question?
got? Yeah.
So do we have a mixture of male and female, or just male or female? How? I mean, you don't have to call the names. I just want to know if we have a mixture,
Oh,
or
well,
is
male
there
and
any
female.
female being considered? Say that.
We do have a mixture of male and female.
Okay.
You
Well,
know,
let me.
one
So
thing,
we're gonna
So
you
that
know,
means
at
on the
6.
Young or old?
Yeah. So go ahead, Dr. Peabody. Go ahead.
I just asking. A mixture of male and female, and then young or old. You get the message, Mariah?
That's fine. I hear you. You got me laughing. Uh, ah, yes, both.
Leave it alone. You can better go. Just
but Kev, why you so quiet? Why did you just do that?
You ain't talking nothing that
No,
you
no,
just
no,
left today.
no, not that. You know
yes,
Kev
not
said,
when
funny.
I
he said,
listen,
cigar
The
already
way the
break, so
people say I
cigar,
support
the
this
cigar on
sleep,
you
so
know,
sale.
I
I
listen.
so care for myself, not me plow.
No, I listen to you guys. I'm just, with people who already having that feeling that the election is over. I can see the feeling. You're having that feeling. I can see in Mariah that election is over. Jackie, election is over. That the president, But Mariah, let me ask you this quick. When last Kobe spoke to Tewa Gonglo?
Oh.
What?
One last,
I just
Kevin
asked
spoke
you
to
when
Taiwan
last Kobe
Congress.
spoke to Tewa Gonglo. I just asked you when last.
Why is this question necessary in the first place? What the point you get into?
I just asked it.
They're supposed to.
I just asked him when last Kobe
I'm confused. You
he
lost
speak
me.
regularly
Because
or when last.
Because even if Kwame spoke to
we
Terra
came out
Congo
yesterday,
yesterday,
we
why
lost.
would I tell you? So what is it that you're asking? Get to the point. Make the point.
So guys, you can see where I head into, right? Understand? She can answer that question. One person on that ticket.
Okay. So let me ask a question,
Make your
Mariah.
Okay,
point.
Toronto,
Steph.
you
Yeah,
see
What
me
is
now.
his
Is
point?
Taiwan is having a ticket.
No, but
Kev
Ben,
Toronto, you see me
how
that,
do I answer
Taiwan
a
is.
question about when last Cummins and Congo spoke when kept making a point that he didn't even make yet? He ain't going. Wait, we ain't going somewhere.
I just asked you the question when last they spoke.
So, like I
I just
said,
but
even
asked the
if
is
they
question
coming
spoke
when
speaking to
yesterday,
other
they spoke
presidential
10 days ago, they spoke 2 days ago, it's not my. Why would I tell you that? So, why are you asking the question?
based on
Get to
your
the point
answer.
you're
is
trying to
coming
make.
speaking to other presidential
Based on your answer, I can get my answer. Based on your
We
answer, I
Kev,
can get my answer.
we Kev knows something that we don't know.
Eh, but I
But
say you know, dog.
Mariah, let me ask you this. So I want to ask you this: is
Dublin,
coming
back
speaking to other
back to the
presidential candidates for them to
April
form a
5th.
ticket?
Okay, mark this day.
Interesting.
Mark
Is
this
coming
day.
speaking
So
is coming speaking
Kevin,
to other
like
presidential candidates
Eh,
though?
what?
that's it.
The line breaking
Some
though.
delay going on.
No, I was saying it's
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I
Yeah.
think there was a little small delay. I'm asking: is coming speaking to other presidential candidates for a possible collaboration for a ticket? Forget Joe Boyka. Forget Joe Boyka.
I
I'm
think
talking about other people who are running for president. There's Clarence Monimba, there's Tewan Gonglo, there's Simeon Fremont. Is he talking to other presidential candidates for a possible ticket?
Or collaboration.
so. I would say that conversations around opposition collaborations are happening, and I think that's how far we go. So collaborations on what, how, they're happening. There are other parties, smaller parties, bigger parties, known parties, unknown parties. In fact, at that next event yesterday, I think they named 27 political parties or so.
And that's
It's
what's
Mhm.
happening.
a lot.
Where are they coming from?
So there are lots of conversations going on
That's
around opposition collaboration and on what that will entail. That's definitely not conversation that I'm going to reveal, but there are conversation going on.
Okay. And we got 4 more minutes. We're gonna go to the phone lines in 3 more minutes. But let me ask you this last question. If anybody else ain't got no other question to ask, is the CPP going to expand? Are we gonna see more than Liberty Party and ANC in the CPP before the end of this process?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. Guys, listen, I think, Mariah, you were very gracious to answer a lot of these questions for us, especially on the neck case for me. I think there was a lot of misinformation going out there when it came to that. Oh, let me just squeeze one last thing in. Sorry. One last thing. Let me pull you in your former party a little bit. Unity Party. Many people don't know Mariah is a former member of the Unity Party. She campaigned actively
I
in
was not a member, I was
2017.
a supporter.
Oh, she was a supporter, sorry. But she campaigned actively for Vice President Joe Boyka. In fact, I'm trying to find that picture of Mariah in her Unity Party t-shirt. I was looking for it today, but I couldn't find it. But having said that, let me ask you a question. What are your thoughts on Henry Costa being pulled into this conversation? I mean, we saw Henry go to register to vote the other day. I think we have a video clip of that. We saw Henry go. I mean, there were people picking this young man to go and register to vote. And he is, listen, like him or not, Henry Costa is on the short list. He's on the short list for Vice President Joe Walker's vice presidential pick. What are your thoughts on it? I mean, everybody in the opposition. What are your thoughts on Henry Costa being vice president to VP Walker?
You sure you want to have the conversation 4 minutes to taking calls? Let's do it next time. It was supposed to be the first
So
question
you want
you
a whole
asked.
show to discuss Henry Costa? You want a whole show to discuss Henry Costa?
But I won't be on
No,
that show because
no, I don't
that's
need
Friday.
I don't need the internet keeps breaking, but I don't need a whole show to discuss one person. We need a whole show to discuss the danger around this conversation just happening and how we are going to set our democracy on a pace towards destruction, destroy our democracy. We're already struggling with it. We're already struggling with it under Josh Weir. And these are the enabling environments, the enabling conversations we have around further pushing our democracy on the path towards total destruction. And then when we're no longer a democratic society, and we're back to the days of us being led by people who had no leadership abilities and only depended on the power of their voice and led us to a path of destruction, then we'll ask ourselves again, how did we get here? This is not about
So you think
individuals. This is about the country.
So
This
you
is
think Harry
about the
Potter being
country,
considered for
Vin.
vice president
When
as
we
a thing?
deciding to choose our leaders, when we deciding to choose our leaders, we should take that decision as important as we take the decisions as to who to marry. We should take those
Yeah,
decisions
but
as
what makes Henry
important as
Costa
we
a
take the
leader? That's
decisions
that.
of our personal lives, because we need to start having standards for who our leaders will be. At this moment,
Okay, so
unfortunately, and I said it last time, President Weah is president, so
Mhm.
because people believe he's not supposed to be president, or he's not capable of being president, or he's incompetent, or he doesn't know what to do as president, so anybody else who in that same space or in that vicinity of not knowing what to do, having no leadership abilities, having no experience, not being competent, having no leadership capacity, can also be. If that's the standard we want to set for our country, then let's decide it. If we want to
But
set higher standards
but
for our leaders, let's decide it. So
but
yeah, answering our
Mara,
conversation
it's
for
left
4 minutes to closing.
no, but
Yeah,
I agree.
I
But
think.
on that on
Yeah,
that
go
on
ahead.
that on that I mean, I understand where you come from, but the thing is that it left with the Liberian people, though. The people of the Liberian people, they who make that decision. I mean, we can say what we want to say, though, but they know all the actors, they know everyone, they have seen everyone one way or the other, and like the election is we're about to go into elections again. It will be decided by the Liberian people. If they have seen Cummings, Boyka, Weah, Costa, whoever, all the actors involved, right, over the years. Now they have seen them. They can scrutinize them and say, well, we believe this person is capable of taking this office. So I think we can give our own criticism, our own views on it. But at the end of the day, if the Liberian people go to the polls and make the ultimate decision, I mean that's what we're gonna. Well, we can question them for that though. So everyone believe that they can seek the office. They qualify. They meet the criteria. They feel they can seek the office. So at the end of the day, it's all about making that compelling case, making that case to the people. So look, this ticket is the best ticket I can take this country to the next level, or this ticket can continue for another 6 years or so. So I mean, I don't know, but I think it's a open stuff that people can chime in, because at the end of the day, we go to the polls and make that decision. I don't know, but that's just I look at it though.
Okay. Except
At the
I
end of
don't
the
think
day,
we have to go to the phone
I
line.
always
So I don't know if you
We
have
yes.
that's
Peabody. You were saying.
No, Mariah, go ahead. I give you the.
no, go ahead, people. You haven't said much. I've been talking a lot.
As I was saying, as I say, at the end of the day, I always say this in all my appearance. At the end of the day, the Liberian people will make a decision on who they want to be their president and who will lead their country. The ultimate decision rests with the Liberian people. That's what I want to say.
All right. Well,
So
listen, guys. I think, and
I
Mariah, you are right. I think.
oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Close on it. Close on this.
you know, sometimes when people say, oh, the decision is with the Liberian people, the decision is with Liberian people, that's true. That's great. That's true. But we also have to understand that for democracy to thrive, the enabling environment for democracies around the world, or democracy as a form of government, is not well developed in Liberia. And so we cannot say, oh, but the people decide, but the people
Fair.
decide. But unfortunately, in order for people to be able to make that kind of analytical decision, for countries that make, I guess, those kinds of decisions during the electoral process, they're predominantly highly educated countries with a high literacy rate. On the other hand, we have a higher illiteracy rate than a literacy rate. And so it's almost like giving your 12-year-old or your 10-year-old, in a way, decisions to make. When you're able to guide those decisions and be able to tell if someone is positioned or does not have the full information or the capacity to get that information to make informed decisions, every single one of us here who may be in a better position to understand the dynamics of what's happening and provide the information to our people in a way that they understand so that they're able to make informed decisions, have a responsibility to do that. It is a responsibility to do that, to provide the information to our people for them to make those decisions that are borderline informed decisions. But we cannot have a process where we're not telling our people the truth, we're not calling out people who want to be leaders and basically setting them apart, and letting the people know the truth about them. We're not giving them the information that they need to make informed decisions. Then we say the people will decide. Yes, true, the people will decide. But sometimes the democracy is only the will of the majority. Whatever the majority is, that's the decision they will make. Granted, but what do we do? Us, who claim to be the intellectual class, the intelligentsia, what do we do? What responsibility do we have to our people, to our grandmoms and our aunties and mommies and our market women and people who we don't expect to come on Facebook and read all these analysis and make these critical decisions or whatever? What is our responsibility to them? To the very people that we say will make the decisions? How can we be true to ourselves and sit here on this platform today in 2023, given where we are with Josh Weah, and say Henry Costa is VP material or presidential material? Leadership is also about preparedness. This is not a personal issue. We need to start having leaders who are prepared for the task ahead. Life is not a marathon, it's a journey. Is it in his calling to be president or vice president of Liberia? That's for God to know. But even God, in calling people and preparing them for something, he prepares them. Are we saying that Henry Costa is prepared to be vice president or
Mariah, president of our
let me
country?
ask you,
Well, Ben,
and
let me
Mariah,
learn
let
now
me
because
say this.
you for the conversation.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
finish.
So if we think he is,
Yeah, finish.
that's fine. And you can love somebody. You can love somebody, you can follow somebody, you can call this person your leader, but you can also be able to tell the person the truth. My man, you're not ready yet. And leadership is not just about popularity. If it's about popularity, then Liberia in the last 5 years should have quadrupled its developmental goals because Josh Weah is one of the most popular presidents we've ever had. So it's not about
Okay.
popularity.
So I want to come in. I want to come in on something. You talked about preparedness. You talk about all of these different things, and we're sorry we're running out of time. You are absolutely right. Maybe we should have a whole show on all these potential prospects for VP. But when you talk about preparedness, right? I think I think that when you talk about preparedness, I think that conversation is relative because at the end of the day, first of all, the decision to pick a vice president is on the standard bearers' shoulders. That's their call to make. Whoever is put forth or whoever the standard bearer deems necessary is more on the standard bearer's judgment. But let's talk about Henry Costa. You said preparedness. And I'm sure Henry can defend himself. He has all the capacity to defend himself. But when you talk about preparedness, that's where I'm coming because I'm trying to understand where is this coming from? Because Henry Costa is educated. It's not like he's not educated. He's articulate. Popularity from a political standpoint, he has some political capital. He may not be to the level of other politicians in the country, but he's educated.
He went to school. He has not held any political office, but there are other arguments that can be made. There are other leaders around the world. There are other people who Zelensky, who is now running Ukraine. He was a comedian, right? When he became president of Ukraine. He's not a terrible leader, right? So I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. When you use the word preparedness, I'm trying to understand, first of all, the job of the presidency, no one goes to school for that job. The only person, even in this country, it is stated that the only person who is qualified to be president is someone who has been president before. So if that is if that is the litmus test we are using, then maybe only George Weah should be elected president because he's the one who's been president. So that's why I'm trying to push you on the issue of preparedness. And I know we're running into our time, but I will give you your time to respond to what I just said.
Same reasons I said we shouldn't have this conversation. First, I think it's misleading when you try to talk about Zelensky as a comedian to pair it with a talk show host, because I know that's where you are going. But before Zelensky's acting career or comedian career, Zelensky is a lawyer. He's a trained lawyer. And so let's just
Yeah,
make
but
that clear. It's not a
yeah,
comparison. But no, I wanted to clarify that, Ben, because when you use Zelensky, you're trying to say you don't need to, somebody, a comedian can become president, so a talk show host or whatever. So let's establish
well, no,
that first. Zelensky's a
but that's
lawyer.
what I'm saying,
The second
Mariah.
thing,
I think
we're not,
what I think the danger here
so,
is no. I come in. Let me get interactive small because maybe we should skip
okay.
the calls because we're having this
I think
internet
we should have a
issue,
whole different
and maybe we
conversation
can
on
just
this,
we can
but
just close
I
on
only
this
came here to
topic.
talk
I don't know
about
where
the
you're going.
CPA case.
Can we
Let's
get
do it
some
next week.
calls in, please? For more? Yeah, let's get
Because
some
it's a whole
calls
topic.
in,
It's a big topic. It's
please.
a long topic.
Okay, I agree. Let
Exactly.
invite Mariah to come back. Let's invite Mariah to come back, but I
Right,
really
you
want to have this conversation about
Yeah,
preparedness.
what
And
me
I
become
think
a
at the
man
end of the
show so
day, it
people
is
can say that, oh yeah, sure.
we'll
no,
give
but
you
I mean,
20 of the
you can always
50K.
come as guest analyst. Yeah, we like you here. We like you here. Don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let them go for you. So yes, let's take some
Uh,
calls. Let's
Mariah,
take some calls. Maybe let's take about 5 or 6.
I mean, attack what I see this
LEC
coming.
gone. LEC
oh,
gone. Yeah, you see. So
see,
so
so
let's come back.
I
Let it
again.
come in and let's
that,
take a few calls and then we can wrap it up.
you want to get
Well, thank you for the show tonight. So we go to the telephone line to begin taking calls on the program, the closing argument. The numbers to call are 0775 3360, 0775 and 080 60 3360. Once again, 0880 60 3360. So let's begin taking calls on the show tonight. Good evening. Good evening. Yes, I'm okay. Your name and where have you called from?
He's very low. We can't hear him.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Mura, thank you very much for that. Mura, I really admire you. I very, very admire you. Thank you for defending our party. At the end of the day, I believe we're going to become a victorious. Thank you, Muriah.
Thank you.
Yes,
Good evening.
good evening.
Yes, your name, where have you called from?
My name is Joseph Kennedy calling from Camp Johnson Road.
Let's hear you, Joseph.
And I want to appreciate the panel on the show. And let me say this, that the problem that I have with some guys from the Unity Party side, the thing that the president is there that somebody who say car parking, but now they are struggling to pick the vice president. If they see that the vice president is not important because as they're supposed to say the vice president was there, so vice president, so the madam said you were not giving her time, you're not doing nothing because you're there, vice president position. Let it go ahead and pick anybody at the point. So they think that vice president is not important. What Ambassador Boga still struggling to be vice president. And the issue of Costa, I think they want to use Costa to maybe, and Costa said, even when he came to register, he said, more than five, you'll be on a ballot and you'll be choosing.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello?
Yes, you are live.
I'm Stephen Wisher. I want to participate on the show.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, you are live. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Stephen Wisher.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I just wanted to speak directly to the lady in studio. You getting me?
Go ahead. Stop listening to yourself.
Stop
Go ahead.
listening to your radio.
Okay, I wanted to speak to the lady
Just
directly.
listen to your phone.
First of all, for Liberia is 100 and something years, and you getting me now, right?
Yes, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Hello.
Yes, you are live.
My name is Holy Pele calling from Fiaman Wednesday.
Go ahead. Listen to your phone directly.
Okay. I appreciate the topic on discussion, but for us in Liberia, vast majority of us, no matter whosoever is about that as running mate, we are anticipating to carry Georgia for first time. One run victory. Not even two runs, but one single run. Because we know exactly what we are doing here. The president has given young people free school, tuition, giving hospital under his watchful eyes as president,
Okay, thank you.
and creating a vocational school on his watch.
Thank you. So we go to the WhatsApp land.
Hello.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, you're live. Go ahead.
This is Prince Clary calling from Capital Baba, the co-chair for administration.
Go ahead. 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you very much. The issue here is clear. Honorable Ambassador Joseph Zuma-Boaga, you won't tell me since he get the power of the Benin government, do you know any good person to choose as running mate since 2022 or 2021? He find anybody in Liberia that he knows to create childhood day to know that person have good repetition.
Okay. Thank you. So we go to the WhatsApp line to take calls. Hello?
Hello.
Good evening. Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. This is Alofa Julius, and I'm calling from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah, go
And
ahead.
I just want to say, immense thanks to Mariah for elaborating on this issue of a vice president and what leadership requires. I listened to Ben ask the question of qualification. Ben, let's be real to ourselves here. Why it is truth that it shows to us that the vice president, Honorable Boykai, has proven to us that he lacks the ability to make sound decisions, but even considering a Henry Costa for that position as a vice president, what it also highlights to us here is this. When we speak of leadership, we are taking into consideration what is often said. Leadership starts from in your home, in your community, it goes to your city, your state, and then to national level, which is what have you exhibited, your behaviors. Henry Costa ran the COP. You are a part of the COP. Where is it today? Other institutions, look, let's not play with Liberia. Liberia is not a testing ground. Let us not.
Well, thank you. Good evening.
Hello?
Yes?
Yes, this is Tommy. This is Tommy from VA. Just want to contribute. First of all, I just want to say to our sister Mariah, good to have you on, and thanks for all of your insight. I just have 2 points. My first one is about the Farmington Agreement. Regardless of what side of the political spectrum you find yourself, I think that projection of peace for all the political leaders to come together is good for Liberia. I don't think that's the point, though. The problem here is is that information being triggered down to the average battle crier, to the average supporters? Because at the end of the day, those are the people who are causing the violence if the candidate is not, is suspected of being cheated against, or if the candidate doesn't win. So each political party has to be committed to making sure that they're educating their supporters on the peaceful election process. My last point is about Henry Costa. Listen, we love Henry Costa. He's educated, he's qualified, and everything else. What Costa lack is temperament. Unfortunately, the office of the VP needs someone who can control their emotions. Say what you want about President Weah, at least outward in the public, he projects a sense of calm and temperament. And that's what is most important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello?
Good evening, you're live. Good evening. Good evening.
Yes, hello?
Yes, you're live. Go ahead.
Yes, to the topic on the discussion pertaining to the running mate. It is true that being we all will let Costa, but then it is true that being a leader is different from being a staff. However, like my mate Morales said that it doesn't matter. Here is a talk show, but rather what we can think is let Braga just decide who to take. Because there's a saying that says the signing of the dry leaf is a warning to the raw one. So thank you there.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Hello?
Yeah, you're live. Quickly.
Yeah, my name is Joe Corey, calling from Pinsville.
Go ahead.
The issue of the vice president for us, from the CBC, we are ahead of them. What I like it in Tuesday, June or July or the end of the month, we are far ahead of him. And look, as a matter of fact, we are thinking how to set our campaign chairman and our president with him. So we're not waiting for them. Saturday, we are going to, the state political party is going to put a hand document to sign our 4 non-political parties.
Thank you. You got to pay for that advertisement. We will not take that here. So, good evening. Good evening.
I'm Mariah saying he's going to
Good evening.
Mariah
evening.
saying to do. Let me talk about CBC.
Yes, you're live. 10 seconds. Go ahead.
Wait, just CPP? I thought you said CPP. Sorry, Mariah. Sorry.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Mamadi Saki calling from Maki.
Let's hear you.
Yeah. To the topic on the discussion, let me talk.
Okay. Good evening.
Yes. Good evening. I'm even simply calling from Lower Kiriswell.
Let's hear you.
Pertaining to the topic on the discussion, where this topic is very a strategic place. And then we have 2 persons now because it seems to be that we are observing Broker having get his running mate here and even down to coming. And so it's not easy now. So we pray and hope that both people should get whosoever that will carry them food.
Okay. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Good evening for recognition. My name is Ibrahim Dukun Nigeria from Cloud this evening.
Let's hear you, Ibrahim.
Thank you very much. My disappointment here is on Morayo. He's saying that this president, you don't have capacity and the credibility to rule the country. Can you imagine? Or somebody who don't have the capacity able to rule the country for 6 years? I think this is unacceptable. We're disappointing Morayo tonight. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Good evening.
Who appointed you?
All right. Let's take 2 more.
Okay, so go
Let's
ahead.
take 2 more. 2 more.
Yeah. This is Smith Bulu. I'm calling from Barnesville this evening.
Let's hear
Thank you so much for the show. But I have a question for Mariah, being a legal practitioner. She has been throwing emphasis on the constitution this evening, but she has not been able to, let's say, quote any of the section of the Constitution or may referring to the section of the Constitution that she has been, do with if there's a law that says an appointed official should resign 1 year before the election, let's say before the election, and then you resign 7 months to the election and you were taken to court for violating the law. If she being the judge, what would be her ruling?
Okay, thank you. That's a question for Councillor Mariah Yakula. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
The last one.
Yes. Go ahead.
I'm Momo Johnson, calling from Douala.
Let's hear you, Ombo.
My question is going to Mariah Yakula. My question is Mariah Yakula. I think he's a counselor or lawyer. How do you expect for the National Election Commission to act on provisional result on the censor, especially they have to get result on the legislature? How you consider that as a lawyer?
Thank you. So that concludes the call-in segment.
Thank you.
And so we go over to
Yes.
Ben for the continuation of the program. So Ben.
Thank you so much, and we want to thank all the callers. Studio, we want to thank you for organizing. I mean, I'm particularly excited that a lot of the callers are coming from Liberia, so it shows that because this is where we actually want the message to go. This is where we want the impact to be felt, right? Not that we don't have a soft spot for our diaspora citizens. I'm glad Lofa Julius called. So it shows that he too was calling from the diaspora. So what we're going to do is we're now going to go to the process of everybody making their closing arguments, right? Mariah, we want to thank you for coming as a guest panelist. It almost seemed like you were a guest today, but that's because you have a wealth of knowledge. You have a wealth of knowledge, and we respect you, and you are one of our own, whether you like it or not. I don't care what the people say. You're one of our own.
We'll give you 25K.
So you're gonna have a permanent spot. We'll have a permanent box here for you. You and Jackie. See how the two are right in the middle. You're the one getting divided the four us, right? They say the 4 Hebrew brothers, right? So the 2 Hebrew sisters were divided for the 4 Hebrew brothers. But Mariah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming.
Let me respond to the
let's get
caller's
the chance.
question now.
Yeah, go ahead. That's what I'm about to say. Just go ahead and go in. Yeah.
Yeah, before I close, what was the last caller's question? Oh, what were the 2 questions? I think one was if I were to judge, how would I rule if someone violated code of conduct? And then the other question was,
Yeah, you're not referencing any provision of the Constitution. Yeah, was the other question.
no, yeah, I got a provision of the Constitution, but the last person asked 2 questions. I think one was about anyways, okay. I don't know if you remember, please. I was trying to keep track in my head, but then I forgot.
He asked about the code
You
of
broke
conduct,
it
the
up, Jackie.
1-year clause. He asked
Yeah, something about the code of
the
conduct.
1-year.
Right.
Judge,
Yeah, if I was a judge.
if you're a judge, how would you rule
Correct.
if he's appointed officials? Yeah.
Right. So, again, usually the judge ruling will cover a lot of different facts in terms of the facts, the evidence presented, if it's a jury trial, the witnesses, all of that stuff that goes into making a ruling. So I can't really sit here and say what would I rule, but I think violations of laws, sometimes when they're clear on its face, the clear meaning of the law. And so if the law says resign 1 year to elections and you resign 6 months to elections and it's a violation, the judge is likely to rule that it's a violation. I think what is important to note that currently I believe the EFFL is in court on this issue of the code of conduct, where the president did executive orders, did an executive order, change the time from 1 year to 6 months. And so I believe EFFL has gone to the court on the issue of whether or not the executive order, I think, can overtake the statute but something to that effect. But and today, I believe the justice in chambers issued the writ of prohibition on the implementation of that executive order. So, again, it depends on the facts and circumstances as a judge and all of the legal proceedings, processes, evidence presented, and all of that to make a decision. But usually, when you evaluate the law, you do. On the case of the constitutionality of the electoral process, of the voter registration process, I usually don't try to cite laws because more often than not, people don't care about the actual provision. It's usually used in court when you submitting your pleadings or evidence. But talking to the general public, it's really not something that you cite specific laws a lot. But given that it's the Constitution, so it's safe enough to, say that's valid to request it. And so Article 80C of the Constitution talks about the NEC following a national census and before the next elections, demarcating constituencies, reapportioning demarcating constituencies, given the new census numbers. And so I know someone asked about whether, being a lawyer, they can use the provisional results. And again, like I said earlier, if you're listening, those arguments were made and raised today. And the Constitution does not say whether final results preliminary say on the new numbers. So if you know that the new population figure after the census has put us to 5.2, like I said earlier, the final numbers will not change from 5.2 to back to 4.5. So NEC does have um, accurate knowledge, or if we should say, constructive notice that the Constitution has increased substantially to 5.2. And so given that the current constituencies will not reflect, these elections will not reflect the 5.2 if NEC does not demarcate before carry on for the registration. The other thing that was raised, and I believe it's important to note, was NEC is still using the 73 districts as demarcated in 2011, I believe, after the 2008 census. And so what the Supreme Court, the legislature, what is this legislative thing they do? Anyways, but what they came up with for that demarcation when they did the threshold, it says it's valid up to 2017. And this was because they anticipated that the next census would be 2018. Okay? And so if we have a new census putting us at 5.2, and we're not using these results to do a demarcation or reapportionment, and we're relying on a 2017 expired, because it's supposed to, after 2017, you can't use that anymore. And so now technically, we don't have constituencies. And NEC is still using 2017 constituency. And that's why, having conducted a new census and knowing that the new numbers is up 5.2, it only makes sense for NEC to demarcate or reapportion the constituencies for these 2023 elections. But then again, everybody has different opinions about whether it's constitutional or not. Only the Supreme Court can tell us, and that's why the CPB went to the Supreme Court to say, please let us know if NEC is proceeding correctly. We believe this is in violation of the Constitution, and we've come to you to address that. And so that's it on those questions. If I missed anything,
Well, thank you,
tonight.
Mariah. Thank you. And you, do you want to just go? No. You
No,
you're
the
good.
other guy.
You're good. Do you want to just do a quick closing? You wrap it up.
Can I ask
No, I
Mariah a
said
quick
let
question before she close? That question is: do you know the deadline where the presidential candidates supposed to announce their running mates, because a lot of the callers keep talking about this running mate, but NEC has a deadline. I think everybody is going to fall within that deadline.
Um, I, I think the deadline is basically when you register, and
Nomination.
the deadline for
Nomination.
registration for nomination, when nomination ends. So when you register your party's candidates for the presidential and stuff, that's the deadline. You can decide to choose your running mate on that same day. But for political
On that same
reasons,
day.
in terms
Yeah.
Okay.
of, yeah, in terms of informing the public of who your running mate is, usually it makes better sense to want to do that earlier than waiting till the last minute. And so, like I said, some parties and candidates, both current and present, have announced their running mates in January before, some in March, some in April, some in July. So it's just fair that at least, announce your running mate sooner and don't wait till the last minute when nominations closing to do that.
Yep.
It also shows
No,
that you're
Um,
not, it also reflects poorly on your leadership, because then I think one caller mentioned, earlier, but in a way, like, ever since, but it's like you've known you'll be doing this process for the last, say, 3, 4, 5 years, and you can make a decision on who you believe can be your, because that's also a personal decision. But that decision also reflects on the standard bearers or the presidential candidates' leadership abilities and ability to make good decisions on who you choose as a running mate.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mariah, I think is that you've done with your closing. Are you good? Is there anything else you want
Oh,
to
no, I was saying, I
close
think the
on, and
others,
then we
at
can
least
wrap this thing
the
up?
other two should talk first. Yeah, I think others should close.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with Dr. Peabody. We'll go to Tom and then Kev, and then Jackie, and then you can wrap it up for us.
well, Laura, that was you brought a wealth of knowledge here today, especially talking about that case with the Supreme Court with NAC. I think you really brought a wealth, and it was a delight having you come on the closing acumen tonight and just share a lot. So I think your presence here was just very important. There was a lot of things that the Liberian people needed to know. And I think from a legal mind, you brought that from a legal perspective, and that have really helped us understand a lot of what is going on with the election commission. Hopefully, we'll hear from Mr. Cummings soon on his fresh president pick, and also Joe Waka. Looking forward, I think what the Liberian people are looking for at this time that will change the entire race. But hope that also the election commission will see the need to extend the time at least for another week, so that a lot of Liberians, because it benefits everyone. The CDC, the ANC, the UP, all of that. I hope there will be a need to extend the time. But thank you for coming, Mariah, and always it's good to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kev. You want to come in and then Tom and then?
Yeah. Well, uh, Mariah, you you had a great day on the show today, and I the only question I will ask you that why I am not seeing anyone on social media beside maybe uh, Moneyboy and some other that are actually defending your party the way you do. I listen to some of the callers. It's like they're saying, "Thank God I will say Moriah again." I don't know why I'm not saying because uh, we what 7 months, 6 months to election. Nobody is defending uh, your party like you do. So I don't know who had in your communication team, but it's not there. I'm sitting here listening to you. I'm like, uh, wow, looking all the evening shows that come on our time. I'm not seeing nothing out there that actually doing it. Just see some people pretend like they're doing it, but they don't have the kind of knowledge you do. So I think if I'm part of the NC, it's something that I will look into. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Kev. Tommy and George.
Okay, Figo. But anyway, that was I think it was a good show. Mariah, it's always good to share the platform with you. Again, uh, let me congratulate you for your for becoming councillor at law. We have not had the opportunity to do it publicly, but congratulations for your achievement of a councillor at law. And I know you have a very promising future in our country. With that being said, I think you really help educate a lot of people today in radio and TV land about certain issues that have been sticking. That's why this platform is all about. And another thing is that I don't know whether NEC is waiting for they're going to wait after this the census or is officially announced whether to do any redistricting. I don't know, but if that is done, those who are being accused of trucking, it will affect them. I want to believe so though. Another thing is that I know today in the Korean court, we learned about two of our fellow compatriots who were found guilty and sentenced to 9 years in prison. I think the Liberian government said they are taking an appeal, seeking the option to appeal their sentences. I don't know. It's a sad thing for the families and also regardless of what happened, but it's a sad thing to find yourself in a foreign land going to be sentenced to 9 years in prison. It's a sad thing, and my thoughts and prayers with the families. And on the issue about the VP pick, I always say that once tickets are formed, and Ben always saying too that Liberian elections, the real fires comes in around the month of August, September, and we're going to see the fire. People are going to be making that case, going campaigning hard and so forth, and to make the case for the candidate to be elected. But I'm very sure that we know about VP picks. I'm sure April by end of April, early May, we'll know how the tickets are formed. And so again, we're just watching the process and keeping an eye on it. And by the way, Friday we won't be part. I won't be. We'll be. I'll give up prayers as we take the skies to go and do our constitutional duty by registering to vote. So, guys, thanks again, and look forward to have another show perhaps on Monday when I join you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie, you want to go ahead and close?
Yeah, it was a wonderful show. Mariah, it was wonderful having you on, and I look forward to seeing you on more often. Hopefully, you can come on more often, and be a part of us. All the legal advice that you gave today, it was very good, and even the effort by CPP to even file with the court. I think that's good. I believe in opposition unity. Even if we have separation, a lot of people wanted to see boycott, whatever, come together. But I think for the most part, they are civil, and but the only thing I want to see is that we collaborate. When it comes to national issues and issues that within the interest of the voters, that there is opposition unity, and we'll continue to strengthen that and support each other's effort as we go through this electoral process. So I thank you very much for being here today. To some of the callers who said VP Boyka is wasting a lot of time, we will meet the deadline, and hopefully he will announce very soon. I just want to stress that. Political climate changes from time to time. What is relevant today may not be relevant yesterday, may not be the same thing today. So with all the consultations that are going on right now in the vetting process, to the public out there, he will be announced his running mate pretty soon, I'm sure. So it was a great show, and looking forward to our next show.
Thank you. Mariah, you want to go ahead and close quick? And thank you
Yeah,
again.
thank you, Ben. So I just wanted to say before my closing, I'm not sure if Kev was trying to be funny or complimentary or thought it was, um, you know, something appealing to me. But the whole issue of nobody else defending Mr. Cummings as I do, I think that's inaccurate. I think we have several persons who do that. We have, Victoria Kokwe, who's running for Montreal Senator, also does support Mr. Cummings heavily on shows. In fact, last night she was on Crossfire, which I will be on as well sometime coming up. And of course, we have Dr. Richardson on an evening network also defending Mr. Cummings and pushing his messages. And we have several other persons who either support him or, is a partisan and they do that. So I don't think it's fair to try to set me apart as the only person who you think does. I mean, we all may have different level of information given our involvement at different levels, but I don't think it's fair. On the other
I think
hand, I think, as I
just
said
being modest
earlier,
Kev,
so
let
that
the woman, Kev, please let the woman close. We gotta go, Kev. Please let her close, please. Thank you.
I think,
We
as I
gotta go.
said earlier, part of why I came on today was really to clarify the misinformation and disinformation that people, including Darius Dillon, have communicated to the public about the CPP um, um, lawsuit before the Supreme Court. And as I mentioned earlier, I will be responding, actually a writer. I think I'm better expressing myself talking or writing. I don't know which one, but I will be really doing a response on that as well to give out the information as we've done here tonight. The CPP did not go to stop any process. If we wanted to stop a process, we would have filed a prohibition, asked for an injunction to put a stop to the process. We did not do that. Instead, we filed an e-reconstitutionality action, and e-reconstitutionality simply means asking the Supreme Court to determine whether an action, process, or procedure or anything is in line with the Constitution. And as I mentioned, Article 80 had talked about the NEC carrying out demarcation or reapportionment immediately after the conduct of a census in line with the new population figures. And we know that we have conducted a census. We know that the new population figure is 5.2 million. And so NEC, having that information, should know that it is important to do the reapportionment before, because then when you reapportion after you've registered people, mind you, I hear people saying, Liz just did mention in the meeting that they would send annual final results or what at the end of May, which would be the end of the voter registration process. So when you've completed the voter registration process, then you go and reapportion constituencies, and people from one constituent then falls into another constituent, and then the constitution also said you have to register where you vote. You have to vote where you register. And so all of these issues are important for us to clarify. And the best way was to go to the Supreme Court, which is the only body that is authorized and clothed with the authority to interpret the Constitution. And as Jackie did mention, and thank you, Jackie, whether or not we support each other for um, presidential, vice presidential, or whatever, when it comes to issues that affect the people, any one party that takes action towards it should be supported and not try to be degraded or drawn into the messiness. And I think, Senator Dillon crossed the line on that. But I'm happy to be here to make that clarity. as well, and to inform our people the importance of why we should protect our Constitution, why we should hold our Constitution in reverence, why it's an important part of who we are as a state and as a people, and not to just violate the Constitution at any moment, any time, given the whims and caprices of the president. That is not good for our democracy. And so, whatever we need to do to ensure that we operate within the Constitution as citizens, as a people, as a party, as individuals, we should all be able to support it and say, let's hear what the Supreme Court says. If they say it's constitutional, fine. If it says it's not constitutional, then we do the right thing. So thank you for having me. All the other conversation I know crept in, and it's always good being with you guys. It was good being on here. The people say I defended y'all, I defended people and stuff, but at the end of the day, I stand on the side of the truth, without fear or favor, no matter whose right side my advocacy or position it falls on. And you have to be able to call things out for what they are. And again, I remember when former Charles Tiller was giving his speech that August, as he left for Nigeria, and he said, I may have stepped on a few big toes, but I don't care.
Wow, that is an excellent closing, and that's the reason why, Mariah, you do what you do best. We want to thank you, and listen, and we thank you for standing up for the truth. But there's only one truth. The truth is the truth, right? Everybody, so people are entitled. People are entitled to their opinions. Opinions are like noses. Everybody got one, but people are not entitled to their own facts. The fact is the fact, and I think you have had a front row seat of all of what has happened, and so I think that's what you did. No one called you. I never knew. In fact, when you posted, I think I actually reached you, and I was like,
Thank
oh my
you.
gosh, yeah,
Thank
no one
you.
asked you to do it. Nobody called you. But again, like I said, Mariah, that's who you are. I've known you. We go way, 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 way back. People don't know that, right? And let me announce it. We are going to play in that show that you talked about. I remember the days of Mariah. All of us when we were on Facebook. That was before Facebook Live. That was when it
Liberia
was
Enlightenment Forum,
all of these forums. That's when it
Radio
was
LIB. You
Radio
remember
LIB.
Radio
That was your first.
LIB? My
That was your
first
first
platform.
debut.
I was a talk show host,
Yep.
giving back by
Yep. And
Miss
then when I
Mo.
heard people
You know,
say,
people talk about,
I've
oh,
heard
my
people
first online talk show. Yeah,
I've heard
you
people
remember?
say they want made you popular. And I laugh about it when I hear people say they're the one who made you popular. But Mariah, I thank you because you're good. You're a person. You're a good person. You're very fiery when you have to be. You defend what you believe in, and I think we should respect each other for that. So having said that, I want to thank you. And again, like I said, you're welcome anytime. Anytime there's an issue you think you need to talk about, if you can come and add some value, I think it is important for our people to get substance, and that's the reason why we said this show is about substance and not conspiracy theories, because it's become so easy since Facebook Live came into being. It's so easy for people to just get on Facebook and yap. Those days, I remember we used to battle on the keyboard. You go live with Mariah, keyboard style, right? So that
Right,
without being said,
right.
yep, you
No,
have to
no,
you
no, no,
actually have
Ben,
to
I
rate.
gotta say this before we go. The difference between the Facebook of 14, 15, 13 years ago, when we were going back and forth at each other on Facebook, we were writing
In live.
your quality of your work, how you put forth your argument. But some people who can write good-friendly letter, all they got that microphone and just talk. That the people
Now,
that are
wow.
supposed to
Now,
let
Yeah,
me
wow.
like
go.
that.
Yeah,
But
let me
Mariah,
go. So when they
you
want,
are,
so right,
I see you. Yeah, you're right. Go. We beg you. All right. But studio, thank you. Thank you to all of our viewers, everybody who has been out
Mariah,
there.
was see you on Friday, right?
where?
Yeah.
Was he on Friday, Mariah?
Okay, yes.
We'll see you
Okay,
on
guys.
Friday.
Come back
Okay, all
Friday,
right.
man.
So, ASN, we want to thank you for
All
coming
right.
on. We want to thank
Bye.
everybody. We tried out this new technology today. There was a little bit of glitches. We will fix it, but I hope you guys liked it. It was a little more informative. You saw people, you saw the comments, you saw the different things being posted. All of the different things that we're trying is our effort to bring you the best because Mr. Cummings, and I attribute this to Mr. Cummings, and it's not because Mariah on the show. I'm not trying to bribe her to come back on the show. But Mr. Cummings once said, and he told me this, he said, many Liberians don't know what good looks like. And so people don't have the ability to aspire to greatness. It's almost like trying to squeeze a water out of a rock. You can't ask a man to aspire to something he doesn't know. The reason people aspire to things is because they know those things. So when we talk about elevating the platform, that's what we want so that people don't settle for mediocrity. We're not
But
settling
Ben,
for loud.
let me break it down for you. You stressed a good point about people not aspiring for more because they don't know there's more, or for greatness because they haven't seen it. I'll give a very practical example, right? In Liberia, there's so many courses we don't offer at the university.
Sure.
There's so many courses that has to do with different career paths, right? So you leave Liberia, you go to the US or other countries to school, and you see the list of courses they have to offer and things that people are getting degrees and stuff, and you're like, oh, they can do them because how would you, as a young girl or boy growing up in Liberia, who've never heard that this exists, even aspire to it? Right?
Yeah.
So you have students in the US who they know immediately they want to do this, they want to do that. So in Liberia, all that people aspire to do, that are things that we know: public administration, sociology, economics, political science, lawyer, doctor, engineer, right? But it's only now, given the advent of the internet and social media and people on Google and Facebook and stuff, now that people really able to see what other countries offer, what's available, what they can be, and that's important. So, most people don't really know what good looks like because they probably haven't seen it, and we are products of our environment.
True. You couldn't have said it better. On that note, we want to end on this note. Thank you, Mariah. And Mariah, please unblock Kev. He just sent me a message. I'm going to tell you to please unblock him on
Let me think about it.
WhatsApp. He missed talking to you. He missed talking to you. He won't ask you. He sent me a message and he said, I'm going to talk to you offline, but I said I will put him on the spot publicly. So please unblock Kev so y'all can start
And I
talking
got
again.
one message, Ben, before I
Yeah.
go, for the person who, you know what? Let me leave it. I will end it.
Yeah, please leave it.
It's
Thank
okay.
you. Please leave it because I know you. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, guys. It was
All
great.
right.
It was great.
Yeah, the
Studios,
best show,
take it
Mariah.
from
Good
us.
having you. Good to see Jackie.
All
Good
right.
having you. Thank you.
Best
Thank you,
show.
guys.
Best show, guy.
Bye bye.
Question
Safe
Bye bye, guys. See you on Friday.
See you.
Thank you. Thank you to the folks there from the closing argument. Well, folks, this is how I want to conclude this edition of the program. Well, we've been really on Umar FM in Bombing County and Hot FM 107.9 in Monrovia. Well, on behalf of the entire crew here at KMTV News Studios in Central Monrovia, my name is Aisin Yiba, bidding you a pleasant good night.
What's up, guys? This is Sassy MC right here of KMTV, and as you are watching, we are now on SatCon, Channel 3. We cannot do this alone, guys, so we need you, business people. Come and advertise with us. Just call us or WhatsApp us using the numbers below.